All right, good evening, everyone. We'll start here. Start the meeting. Thank you. All right, welcome to everyone who's here. This is a public meeting of the School Board of West Bend Joint School District Number 1. More than 24 hours in advance of the meeting, notice of the time, place, date, and subject matter of the meeting was posted at the entrance doors at the Education Service Center and at the West Bend Community Memorial Library. A copy was also sent to the Daily News, WIBD, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and other media sources that have requested notice of our meetings. And I'd ask our superintendent to confirm that this meeting was properly posted.
Yes, it was.
Great. I'll just say that a week from now is Memorial Day, if my calendar is correct. And so let's think about the folks who sacrificed so much for our country and for the ability for us to collectively as a community to meet in a body like this as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you, everyone. We recognize the quorum with all members of our board present. And with that, next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda, which was provided in advance. I would move to approve the agenda. Would there be a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nancy. Motion and second to approve the agenda. Any final discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. All right, so we are then on to recognitions. And first, we're going to recognize some employee award recipients, and specifically the Rolfs Education Foundation Awards and Support Staff Employee Awards. And I'm told that everyone is here, so we're excited for this. The board would like to take some time to recognize this year's employee award recipients. These individuals were nominated along with dozens of other outstanding employees for this recognition. So what we're going to do is we're going to have some words and we're going to invite you individually forward. This year's Rolfs Education Foundation Award winners are Susan Sarek, the Advanced Placement and Gifted and Talented Coordinator at the high schools, Amy Carver, a special education teacher at Jackson Elementary School, Craig Barnes, a first grade teacher at Jackson Elementary School, Stacy Baldwin, a fifth grade special education teacher at Silverbrook Intermediate School. The board is deeply grateful for the contributions of these individuals, and we'd like to share some words of praise that were collected from some of your colleagues. We each have a bit here to say, so Nancy.
First, would Susan Sarek from the high school please come forward? Susan has served the district for 6 years. With Susan, you know what you're getting, and that's a professional colleague with tremendous positive energy and a desire to help. Susan's professionalism and attention to detail means that she's a go-to person for many colleagues when they need help with a tough problem. Students and teachers know that coming to Susan means a happy smile, an energetic ear, and a person who will get things completed. She's an adult that all students gravitate to and who turns every experience into a positive one. To the students, she is a cheerleader and a problem solver. As a colleague, she always makes time to listen to anyone's concerns, ideas, or needs. Staff truly feels seen and appreciated by Susan. Susan, the board wishes to thank you for your contribution to the success of our students and your staff members.
All right, would Amy Carver from Jackson Elementary please come forward? Amy has served the district for 5 years as a special education teacher at Jackson Elementary. Amy is the complete package for teaching. She is creative, energetic, positive, and caring. She builds a fantastic relationship with students that is genuine. She is a flexible thinker and looks for multiple ways to solve a problem. She gets to know her students and colleagues in a way that allows her to help everyone reach their full potential. She is smart, creative, and thoughtful in her methods. There is nobody that better embodies the district vision of excellence for all. Amy, the board thanks you for your contributions to the success of our students and staff.
All right, and Tanya, I think you have the next one.
Would Stacy Baldwin, sorry, let's do this the right way. Would Stacy Baldwin from Silverbrook please come forward?
Stacy has served the district for 21 years. She is respected for her expertise and leadership at Silverbrook Intermediate School. She is actively involved in all aspects of learning, including membership on several teams, such as the culture team, special education team, and the safety committee. She is sought out by her colleagues because of her knowledge, especially as it relates to student learning, engagement, and student well-being. Stacy has a full toolbox of strategies she uses, but also continues to grow her expertise too. No matter the disability, Stacy has demonstrated the ability to reach every student and help him or her to learn, grow, and become the best student they can be. To her colleagues, Stacy is the duct tape that holds everything together. Stacy, the board thanks you for your contributions to the success of the students and staff.
And Mr. Craig Barnes from Jackson. Craig has served the district for 28 years. He strives to make sure all students succeed in his classroom and does it with incredible grace. Craig has a plethora of knowledge bases from his years in teaching, along with a plethora of stylish neckties. All of the kids love him and always come back to see him when they move on to another grade. He brings a positive attitude no matter the circumstances around him. He deals with difficult situations with incredible professionalism and poise. He creates the truest form of an inclusive learning environment that meets the many diverse needs and learning styles of his students. Every child in his class is a successful learner and participant thanks to his ceaseless commitment. Craig, the board thanks you for your contributions to the success of our students and staff. Thank you.
Congratulations. You can go ahead and have a seat, and what we'll do next is we're going to discuss the Support Staff Employee Awards. All right. The board also wishes to recognize this year's recipients of the Support Employee of the Year Award. These recipients are all part of our support staff. They were also nominated by their colleagues and selected by a panel of previous winners. This year's recipients are Josh Dolan, paraprofessional at McLean Elementary School; Tina Karazi, an administrative assistant at Green Tree Elementary; Pam Adams, paraprofessional at Jackson Elementary School; Ann Fichtner, paraprofessional at Silverbrook Intermediate School; and also Christy Seimer, a school nutrition employee who's not able to join us this evening. The board wishes to express its deep gratitude to all these individuals for their dedication that they have shown to our students and staff, and also the board would like to share some words of praise that were collected by your colleagues as well. So Kurt, I think you're going to lead us off.
Yeah, with the wonderful Josh Dolan, please step forward from legendary McLean Elementary. Josh has served the district for 9 years. He is a people person. He takes, thank you, the time to get to know each other and every child. He listens and supports children, especially during their neediest time. He is McLean's go-to guy, and the staff feels so lucky to have him in their corner. Josh is committed to creating a safe and positive learning environment for all students. He has demonstrated what it means to have a kind heart and has given a lot of himself to his job. He does this all with a smile on his face and a positive outlook. Josh is one of the most committed members of our McLean team. Josh, the board thanks you for your contributions to the success of the students and the staff.
Would Tina Karazi step forward, please? Tina has served the district for 14 years. She is the glue that holds Green Tree together. She makes sure the building runs smoothly on a daily basis. Green Tree runs like a well-oiled machine because of her. She is a wizard. She spends countless hours figuring out how to cover absences, making sure staff has the tools needed to perform their jobs, facilitating communication between employees, talking to families and students, and even fixing the occasional boo-boo. Tina epitomizes the district's core values of integrity by being very honest, open, and trustworthy at all times. She demonstrates the highest level of professional behavior and ethics and has done so consistently for many years. Tina, the board would like to thank you for your contributions to the success of our students and staff.
Would Pam Adams from Jackson Elementary please step forward? Pam has served the district for 19 years. She exhibits all the core values as a West Bend School District employee. Pam is always the go-to person when people are new to the building or if we have a sub for the day. She will go out of her way to help the students and staff and make everyone's day brighter. She naturally creates trusting and respectful relationships with all of the students. Pam is extremely flexible and willing to assume new roles and responsibilities without hesitation. She consistently has a positive and supportive attitude and is always willing to give extra time and effort to ensure student needs are met. Pam holds high expectations for student behavior, and she is consistent with those expectations. She rewards students for demonstrating positive behavior and making good learning choices. She will write caring notes to show support or cheer someone on when it is most needed. Pam, the board wishes to thank you for your contributions towards the success of student and fellow staff members. Thank you.
Would Ann Fichtner from Silverbrook please come forward? Ann has served the district for 7 years. She is deeply committed to the success of the staff and students of the West Bend School District. Her can-do attitude and positive disposition are examples she sets for everyone else. Last year, when we were struggling with COVID absences, Ann wanted to be able to help in new ways and became certified to substitute teach. During the course of this year, she subbed numerous times, helping to keep instruction going and maintaining consistency in her house, and helping to provide a familiar face in other classrooms around the building. Ann has mentored several new staff, spending time with them after school and connecting during the day to make sure they have what they need. She brings passion for helping students. She is a fabulous listener who helps with problems, small and large. Her patience with challenging students is ceaseless and amazes everyone around her. And the board thanks you for your contributions to the success of our students and staff.
All right, thank you, everyone. Just one last from the board set of congratulations and thank you to all the award recipients for everything you do for our district and for the positive examples that you set each and every day. Join me in one more round of applause congratulating all of our recipients. All right, and thank you for all the award recipients for coming tonight, as well as all those who came out in support. This is the time, one of the times, where we'll just pause. If there's anyone who wishes to leave the meeting, you certainly may. On the other hand, this is a public meeting of the school board, and we always welcome folks to stay, but if there's anyone who wishes to step out at this time, you may do so. Just pause for a moment, and then we're going to move on to some additional recognitions. All right. First recognition is for the high school culinary team. All right. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Sally Hoyer, and I teach Culinary and Hospitality at the West Bend High Schools. And these 4 individuals that are with me tonight represented our high schools at the ProStart Culinary Competition on March 15th at Madison College. We've been doing this competition for 12 years, and the best we've ever done is 9th. But this year, due to incredible leadership and a lot of hard work, these kids took 2nd place and missed 1st place by 4 points, which is pretty awesome. You know, this is something where they get together after school. And we're very fortunate because all of them are in the Culinary and Hospitality ProStart program. So they're in during their resource time, they're in during their study halls, they're in after school. But it's also even difficult to get them to all come to this meeting because they all work in industry. So we do have 4 out of our 5 team members here tonight, so I'd like to just introduce them to you. We'll start with Maddie Fell. Maddie is one of our seniors, and she is our baking and pastry person, and she will be attending the CIA in Hyde Park, New York, come fall for her baking and pastry. So we're pretty proud of that. Next to her is, we refer to Preston as our baby, because Preston is our token junior. And Preston Duholm has been a very intricate part of our team as our go-to guy. He can do just about anything in speed fashion. So he wore a lot of hats on our team and just did whatever anybody needed to have done. Then to my right, I have Jack Steele, another one of our seniors. Jack will be attending UW Milwaukee for computer science. He is also our technology it's really kind of nice to have my own technology person, because I know the tech people are so busy in the district. But Jack can fix just about anything, and he was in charge of our starter this year. And he was determined that we were going to work with foie gras. So if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's duck liver. All right. And it was a challenge, but he nailed it at the competition, so we're pretty proud of that too. And then to my immediate right, I have Alex Zimmer, who has been the lead on our team. I knew last year that Alex would be the one that would help to determine who would be on the team, because he has such a strong background in culinary. He's been working in kitchens since he was 14. He will be attending Washington University in St. Louis for business. And you'll see he came in his work clothes because he's got to go back to McHenry's on Monday. He's just stepped out for a little bit. And our fifth person is Laura Chavez, who was the manager of our team. And she kept everybody on point, on task, making sure that they were, dotting their I's and crossing their T's and checking off all the boxes. And it's always a challenge because they have 1 hour to create 2 identical 3-course meals using nothing but 2 butane burners, no electricity, and no refrigeration. So it really is important to have someone there just keeping them on track and constantly checking in where they're at. We also want to thank a few of our community members this year. Thank you to Kevin Zimmer and Wallace Lake Supper Club for sponsoring our team. It really helps because, we don't do a lot of fundraising, and all of these kids work in the Nifty Nibble, so it's just really nice to have that extra support to be able to go above and beyond, especially since our 3-course meal could not exceed $75, and it was pretty darn close. And we practiced it, how many times, guys? 12, 15 times, making the same meal over and over. So thank you very much, Kevin, for your support. We also want to thank our chef, Colin Regal, at the Norbert, who was our chef mentor. Colin spent countless hours with us, just helping them fine-tune, and really, this team put together an amazing menu, and really, Colin just tweaked it. And, this is the second or third time that Colin has been our mentor, and he just does an outstanding job. So thank you to Colin. And finally, Jim Butts at the Coles Clinic, because one of the criteria that kids earn points on is what they're wearing. So Preston actually wore his competition jacket and didn't wear his competition pants, but the Coles Clinic, every year that they have been supporting us, provides free of charge the chef jackets with the logos, their names, and the chef pants, so that everybody looks the way that they're supposed to. And, it's amazing when you look the part, you do the part. So I'm very happy to present this team to you, and very sad that I'll be losing most of them.
Yeah, that's right. Congratulations. All right, and next we're going to be recognizing, with the 3-point shooting challenge. And if I believe, Coach Wolchik is going to present that.
I'll introduce him.
Oh, hello. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. That's all
My-
right.
sorry, I just was going off my
I'm
notes.
Molly Hanks. I'm the West Bend East Athletic Director. I'm excited to be here to recognize one of our student athletes in our boys basketball program. He participated in a really cool experience, really because my coach nominated him. And so I'm going to call them both up, and my coach is going to explain a little bit more about the details of it. So I'm going to call up head coach Andrew Rochek.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Molly, for that introduction. For those of you who don't know, I'm Andrew Wojcik. I'm the new head boys coach at West Bend East High School. I was really excited when Molly asked me to come in to talk about the player who won this competition today, and I'll explain a little bit why. But the player who did win this, his name is Severin Hiltz. He's actually sitting over there. He didn't want to come up here with me, I guess.
He's coming
A
out.
little nervous. So just a little bit of background on Sev. So Sev's been a part of the varsity program for the past 3 years now. He's a junior. He was there as a freshman and as a sophomore. As a junior, he got a brand new coach, which was myself, which was hard enough in itself. Even harder for him to go win that competition. So he really exceeded all expectations. He was asked to step into a brand new role as a leader, as a guy who was going to take a majority of the shots, which he never was asked to do before. And like I said, just really blew us all away with the way he performed. Now, just to give you a little bit of perspective, in order to make this competition, you have to attempt more than 83s, and you have to have the highest percentage. They only take, what was it? How many guys were there? Do you remember? 6 or 7, something like that? So they take the top 7 dudes from Wisconsin in order to shoot it out at the Kohl Center in Madison to see who's going to be named the champion. So Sev, he had 68 makes on the season on 136 attempts. So I'm not a big math guy, so I had to put it in my calculator, but that's about 49% from 3. Steph Curry is a name that a lot of you probably know. He shoots 43% from 3. Now, I hesitate to say that because you cannot shoot half-court shots whenever you want. So just a little bit of more background on Sev. Every time we break out of a huddle, we have a chant, and it's Suns on 3, be great on 6. I think a lot of us overlook what it takes to be truly great at something, to be truly great at whatever craft you're pursuing. And I can say with 100% certainty that Sev does not take advantage of that. Just a little overview of Sev's day. He usually gets to the gym at about 5 a.m. before school. He gets shots up for about an hour and a half. He goes to school. He sits in class. Leader in the hallways. He's a member of NHS. Then he comes after school. He gets in a lift with our whole team, helps our youth guys out. And then he goes to a 2-hour practice for AAU and plays multiple games over a weekend. So when you talk about being great and what it really takes, that's paying attention to every detail, not just on the basketball court, but outside of it as well. And Sev really does that. Another funny little fact for you guys, Sev was originally not chosen to be a part of the competition. He missed the mark by, I think, like a half a percentage. Super, super slim. And all of a sudden, he got a phone call one day and said, hey, we had a guy drop out. We would love you to come. And he made time to make it up there. And then he actually won it, so he stole it from the people who were chosen originally. So I thought that was awesome. And a lot of people, they talk about luck, being lucky when you find success. And yes, did he get a little lucky by getting called up there? 100%. But at the same time, he put in the work and the hours it took to win that competition. So when we talk about being lucky, yes, it does take some luck, but it also takes preparation to get that luck. So I hope that's one thing he can take away from this. Another thing that was really cool is he's the first player in West Bend East history to win that competition. So for him to be, put on social media and his name out there as well as our program's name, it was a big deal for us, kind of to say, we're building something out here in West Bend. And, it may have hurt him a little bit because now teams aren't going to let him catch the ball in the regular season. So we're going to have to figure out something for that. But, I couldn't be more proud of Sev. He deserves it more than anyone else I know. So I was extremely excited to come here and present it to him. And, congratulations to Sev, and thank you all for having us here.
All right. Next, we're going to recognize the UW-Washington County Festival of Arts event winners. And I believe Deborah Prawl is going to walk us through that. Yeah, come on up. Great. Welcome. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Deb Prawl, and I'm one of the art teachers at the West Bend High Schools, and I'm very pleased and honored to be here to present to you the winners of the UWM Washington County Festival of the Arts event. We have a couple of other celebrations as well that I'm going to, go off script with a little bit. First of all, I'm standing in for Mr. Birch and Mrs. Bladell from Badger. So I'm going to first recognize Bella Downs, thank you, who won first place and best of show for her collage, was it? Okay. So best of show for the middle school category, fantastic. And Kayla Killy, did I say that correctly? Thank you. Okay, second place in drawing. And next we have Nora Johnstone, who won second place for her beautiful drawing at the high school level. And then there's Grace Melstrand, who won first place for her beautiful painting. And then Favy Zhang, come on up here. Favy won first place for her drawing and also best of show at the high school level. Amazing, amazing accomplishments for our district, and I'm so proud of everybody. I also want to mention that Grace Melstrand, just the other day, won first place in the student category of the Downtown West Bend Art Walk Banner Competition. So I wanted to celebrate that a little bit as well. I also have 3 of our AP Advanced Placement Art and Design students up here, Keaton Differ and Favy and Nora. And they have all submitted their advanced placement portfolios for the year. And Keaton actually submitted his second one. He submitted one as a junior and now as a senior. And the 3 of them are all part of our district AP Art and Design art show that is on display in Silver Linings. And our celebration is this Wednesday from 4 to 7. So I personally invite everybody here to come join us and celebrate these artists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Zweigert, if I could interject.
Oh, one moment. Oh, Superintendent Wimmer?
I like how Mrs. Prall's trying to run away because in my superintendent report, I have recognition from this weekend, not just our current students that she recognized in Grace Melstrand, but also a former student, Miranda Kemp, who currently works as a custodian at the high school, was also recognized, and so was Deb Prall for her work. And again, that was the MOA Art Walk banners, so I'm sure we'll post to social media those 3 and their work. It was phenomenal. So some pretty talented staff as well as students. Thank you.
Great. All right. Moving on, we have a recognition of Wisconsin School Music Association Honors Orchestra students. And Leah Duckert is going to walk us through that. All right.
Is Connor here? Connor, come up too, buddy.
Welcome, everyone.
Hi, I present to you the Wisconsin State Music Association's Honors Project members for the upcoming year. We have Connor Marcone, who's an Eagle Scout, and he's right about to dip out of here and go to his meeting tonight. So, yeah, so I'm going to chat about Connor really quickly so that you can go to your meeting, because I know it's right about now. He's in the same troop as my son, so I get it. Okay, so Connor's a junior, right? Yep. Connor's a junior, and he is representing our vocal department for the Wisconsin State Honors Project. And because I'm a band director and not in the vocal, I have to ask Connor for a little help. Connor, are you a tenor or a bass? Baritone, you like switch it then a little bit, yeah. So Connor's a baritone, which means his voice is not quite the highest and not quite the lowest. It's right in the middle range. So Connor is solely representing our vocal department by himself. The other cool thing I wanted just to mention about Connor while he's here is that he's actually a very gifted, well, kind of everything, but he's also a very gifted composer. And Connor actually won first place in the high school division of the Wisconsin Alliance of Composers High School Composition Competition. Say that 5 times fast. So he wrote a mixed choir composition called Storm, and it was performed in Oshkosh, right? Yep. And he's written things for our band, and I think you're kind of constantly in motion with composition, right? Yeah. So we're very gifted to be able to do student compositions. So that would be my very good friend, Connor Marcone. Next up, I'd like to chat about my other really good friend. Well, okay, all four of these are really good friends. So we have Miss Lily Bean. Lily is a freshman this year, so she's straight out of Badger. And she is already sitting principal chair in our highest band in Wind Ensemble Honors. As a freshman, she's currently taking lessons with a member of the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra. She was voted by her peers as section leader for next year within our band, only as a sophomore, which is pretty important. And she currently is principal chair with our wind ensemble at the Milwaukee Youth Symphony Orchestra in Milwaukee. I know a little bit more about the band honors project than I do the vocal, just because of that's kind of where I live. But Lily and Michael, who I'll talk about in a second, are both clarinet players, and their acceptance into the honors project means that within the entire state of Wisconsin, they are one of the 22 best high school clarinetists in the state of Wisconsin. So we'll see where they get placed chair audition-wise this summer, right? So we'll find out then. But I anticipate high chair placements. And I brought up Michael, so I'll talk about Michael next. Michael is a junior. He is a current section leader this year and was also voted by his peers to be a section leader next year along with Lily. And Michael is also in our wind ensemble honors class. He has performed with the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee Youth Wind Ensemble. So they have both worked a lot with professional conductors. And he is in the honors band. So Lily's in honors orchestra, he's in honors band. So again, he's part of that 22 best high school clarinetists in the entire state of Wisconsin. So that's my good friend, Michael.
Great.
Last but definitely not least is my good friend, Owen Damcott. Owen Damcott is a sophomore this year. And as a sophomore, so he's one of our percussionists, which means that out of all of the percussionists in the state of Wisconsin who auditioned for our state honors project, he is one of the top 13, which is pretty great. Owen, as a freshman, auditioned for our drum line and made it on the snare drum, which is our most highly coveted position in our drum line as an incoming sophomore, which is pretty impressive. And of the entire line made up of sophomores, juniors, and seniors, he was voted by his peers to be a section leader at the young age of junior for next year, which is pretty also exciting too. Just so you can put some numbers into perspective, there were 1,100 auditions between the vocal honors project, the band orchestra honors project, and the jazz honors project. So the fact that we have 4 representatives in that is pretty outstanding. So big congratulations to Connor Marcone, Lily Bean, Owen Damcott, and Michael Collins.
All right. Thank you. Next, we're going to recognize the Automotive Dealers Association of Mega Milwaukee Technicians of Tomorrow competition winners. All right. Welcome. Good evening.
I'll raise this up a little bit here.
You bet.
So I'm Gerald Searcy. I'm the automotive instructor at the high school. I have John Vallone here tonight. Brandon couldn't make it. He's at work right now. But these two gentlemen actually competed in the Auto Dealers Association Mega Milwaukee competition. This is our 6th time in the last 5 years of making it, or sorry, 5th time in the last 6 years of making it. And in that time, we've tested in the highest 6. And when we get hands-on, we get to actually compete against a number of other schools. And then we actually they give us a vehicle that is bugged, and then we have to diagnose it in an hour and 20 minutes. And they have about 15 or so bugs, and the students have no idea what they are. So they have to go through and troubleshoot what those things might be, as well as do basic service information. And they're working with actually local dealers at that time. Our supporter in our town here was Rustero Toyota, and we're very happy to work with him. That's actually where Brandon is right now. He got a job working there because of this competition, so that's fantastic. And John is actually going off to MATC next year to go into the Chrysler program in Mequon. So that's really exciting. But these two gentlemen did very, very well. They just finished their ASE testing today and passed the Autotrans and as well as other areas. So they're doing a great job. So I'm excited to see where they go.
Great. Congratulations. All right. And next, we're going to recognize Skills USA competitors qualifying for nationals. And I believe Mike Bentall is going to walk us through. Welcome.
Thanks. You guys get to stand up there. Okay. This is about you. I'm Mike Bentall. I teach at the high school, photo, video, and animation, but I'm also our Skills USA club advisor. Skills USA is a club at the high school where we strive to help students gain the assets necessary for America's skilled workforce. Students can compete in anything from CNC milling to photography, urban search and rescue to cosmetology. We had one team and one individual competitor place first at the state to qualify for nationals. This year we have Josh Brown and Colin Chesick. They qualified in digital cinema production, so that's like a short film. And then we also had Mason Higgins, who qualified in welding. Mason's currently not here because he is at his job welding. This last weekend, he also wrapped up a degree from Moraine Park Technical College in welding. So he's doing pretty good. And that's what Skills USA is about. We want kids to take the skills that they learn in our classrooms and in the club and apply them in the real world. So at the end of June, these three students will be competing at the national competition in Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow. That's great. All right. Superintendent Wimmer, I think you're going to present some of these next ones. We have recognition of Wisconsin Land and Water's Healthy Soil Poster Contest.
Yes, if I could have East Senior Keaton Differ join me. Is Keaton with us? Welcome back to the podium. You might recall we had some of our younger winners at our last board meeting. 3 students placed in the Wisconsin Land and Water Healthy Soils Poster Contest for Southeast Area. East Senior Keaton Differ won the grade 10 through 12 category and was also 3rd place in his age group for the entire state competition. So we wanted to make sure and get his recognition in as well. We were able to recognize the Fair Park students. So as you could tell by his second trip to the podium this evening, he's sincerely talented artist, and we're happy to have him represent West Bend in his skills. So thank you to Keaton.
All right, and I believe next is the recognition of 2022 Gold Key Award in the Midwest Regional Competition of the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards.
I'm glad you got to say that mouthful. We have Katie Gloyd. Now, you might recognize her. There's also been some articles about Katie and her prolific writing talent, but she's the winner of the Gold Key Award in the Midwest Regional Competition of the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards for the 2020 for her novel, American Refuge. You heard me right, a full novel, not just an essay. And in 2022, her novel, Freaks. And in 2021, she won honorable mention for London Falling. So that's right, 3 novels that she has turned out since 7th grade. And recently, she was chosen for the Bell and Blank Summer Writing Residency, a 3-week program this summer at the University of Iowa. Wow, she's received 2 scholarships to attend that as well. So again, wonderful talent to be representing West Bend. 3 novels under her belt. I'm sure we can get those and read those. And I look forward, get her signature now because she's going to be famous and turning out novels. So certainly passionate about writing. So we're happy to have her represent West Bend. So congratulations, Katie. And again, I know Katie was featured in the paper in a significant story on that background, her passion for writing and how she's pursued that over the years. So I'd encourage you to take a look. I know we've highlighted it in some of our publications as well.
Great. And then recognition of the Silverbrook Battle of the Books team.
Come on up.
All right.
Either side. It's good, friends. works perfect. So, and I don't know the team well, so I'm going to ask them to step forward. Emery Kleiss. Emery. Emmeline Novak. Landon Novak. Isaac Jarek. They placed first out of 213 teams as the state. Even though they're sixth graders, and at Silverbrook, this team, collectively known as the Badgers, were, again, representing West Bend and filling that #1 spot. They, too, had a fabulous article in the Daily News written about, did some in-depth interviews around their experience, their strategy. They've competed before. They did a little recruiting in their team, and they were really out for #1 and achieved it. So the Battle of the Books is sponsored by the Wisconsin Education, Media, and Technology Association. It's a fun statewide program designed to promote lifelong love of reading. This team had strategy. All 4 of them read all books on the list. Some do a divide and conquer thing, but they were all in, and it seemed to work. So if you want to read more about that strategy, please see that article. Also, thank you to our district librarian, Kim Christensen. She serves as the advisor for the group and the competitions, so we appreciate her as well. She just couldn't be with us this evening. So congratulations on your #1 status.
All right, congratulations again. I think, as a board, I can't remember a more diverse array of recognitions. It was tonight, what did we see? Art, culinary, sports, trades, music, reading. Congratulations to everyone.
Automotive, cinematography.
Yes, it went on and on. I know I forgot some. I know,
This is awesome.
yeah, absolutely. No, thank you. All right. So this is another point where we will pause, and we invite anyone to stay for the board meeting if you would like, but we're not offended if you leave. So we'll just pause for a moment. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Oh.
Good to see you.
All right. Maybe what we can do is we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, the public participation portion of the agenda. I have 8 participant comment cards. Let's pause for a moment. Are there any other individuals wishing to address the board? Any other public participation comment cards? All right. Hearing none, what I'll do is I'll read the announcement per Board Policy 187. We've come to the public participation portion of our agenda. Board Policy 187 prescribes the nature and procedures for this segment. I summarize the policy at this time, but copies of the policy are available in the back of the room, and I urge you to familiarize yourself with the policy in its entirety. Residents of the district, parents of children in district schools, and employees of the district may participate. Participants desiring to address the board should obtain and complete a participant comment card near the entry and turn it over to the president prior to the meeting or when allowed by the president. Participants may comment concerning an agenda item or a non-agenda item. Each participant will be called to the podium and given 3 minutes to speak. The participant must state his or her name and relation to the district. This information will appear in the minutes of the meeting. The board will not engage in debate concerning the remarks or take immediate action. The board may refer the matter to the superintendent, a committee, or take the remarks into consideration in future action. Board Policy 872 provides a formal process for citizen complaints, and Board Policy 520 provides a formal process for employee complaints. The board recommends use of these procedures as a guarantee of fair and timely response. So I will invite participants forward to speak. There will be a visible timer to help you manage your time. And what I'll also do is I will state who's next, who's on deck. And then lastly, to help ensure all participants are heard and the meeting runs efficiently, please abstain from conversation, comment, or applause during or after public participation comments. So with that, I would like to invite forward our first speaker tonight, Ms. Dawn Paulie. And then on deck will be Jody Geenan. Ms. Paulie, thank you. If you could state your name and your relation to the district, and then we'll start the timer. The floor is yours.
All right, my name is Dawn Paulie. I have 3 kids in the district now, and I have one that graduated last year.
Great. Please proceed.
I have had children attending classes in the West Bend School District since 2008. That's every single year. For a while, quite a while, I had 4 kids in 4 buildings. While I don't attend every meeting here in person, I am watching what's going on here. We chose to have them educated in this district because of the teachers. The discussion of the grades 5 to 8 curriculum on current events concerns me. I absolutely support our teachers. Our teachers are educated professionals, and I trust them to make decisions about what is taught in their classrooms. I trust that they know they're accountable for what is taught in their classrooms. They're accountable to you guys. They're accountable to me as a parent. Teachers understand the professional standards they are expected to abide by. I have a whole lot of respect for what they do to become teachers. I believe it's insulting to them to control every single lesson they teach, which pages of the textbook they may use, which years of history they may discuss. The reason our kids attend school in this district is the advantage of learning from these professional educators, the human beings in their classrooms. I've always felt that teachers here are accessible. I've reached out over the phone or email and met in person when I personally had a concern with something. We've had a lot of social studies teachers since 2008 with 4 kids in this district. I've always been able to communicate with them. I've always felt heard by them. If I felt the need to control every topic and every lesson presented to my children, then I could discuss that with their teachers directly. If I was uncomfortable with them discussing 9/11, I could take that to a teacher and figure out what a good plan is for my kid. Our kids are all exposed to current events every day. Applying the lessons learned in history to current events is a really vital part of a quality social studies education. So I guess I was racing the timer. I don't know, I saw it and thought, challenge accepted.
That's all right. Thank you for your comments.
Thanks for hearing me out.
All right. We'll move then to our next speaker, Ms. Jody Geenan, and on deck will be Ann Molyneux. And Ms. Geenan, if you would just state your name and your relation to the district, and then 3 minutes will be yours.
Okay, I'm a resident taxpayer. I used to have kids that went to school here. My name is Jody Geenan. Tonight, you will be asked to approve the McGraw-Hill resource for social studies grades 5 through 8. I urge you to vote no. First, as Monty Schmiggy clearly laid out in an email to you, the school district is not following Policy 330, which requires the board and public to receive the standards and course overview documents for review and approval before implementation of resources. Second, the state standards are skill-based instead of content-based. In other words, what our students will be learning takes a back seat to the methods used for teaching. In my opinion, what the students are taught is why we send our kids to school. The method of delivery is the skill teachers are supposed to develop in college and continuing education. That's what makes them professional teachers. So if we can't find resources that have good truth and fact-based balanced content, why waste our tax dollars purchasing resources that teach lies, omit pertinent facts, and turn our students into activists? Keep what we currently are using, which likely has far less indoctrination and more truth and facts than McGraw-Hill, until we find good resources. Third, McGraw-Hill is full of misspellings, grammatical errors, and typos. While Dr. Reese promised she submitted those findings to the publisher for correction, we weren't given enough time to properly proofread the entire resource, so there will be many such errors that won't be fixed. If we can't get the simplest expectations met in the era of technology, how can we trust the rest of the content? Even if it was free, we'd be better off not damaging our students' minds with McGraw-Hill. Fourth, regarding current events, I agree with Tanya's concern about how events like 9/11 could be inappropriately delivered to the students. As John and Melanie pointed out, everyone has their own bias, and we don't need families or teachers worried about how the bias will be kept out of a discussion. If the pandemic taught us anything, it's that our mainstream media is full of propaganda, and the people delivering the messages flip-flop, such as Fauci, the CDC, and Biden. We have a school board policy that pertains to politicized issues because there are multiple sides, and some students aren't ready emotionally, psychologically, or intellectually. That's why Superintendent Wimmer wisely forbade any discussion about January 6th. Finally, to clarify and compare numbers of residents who took the time to review and give feedback, since Nancy Justman seemed to claim that there weren't enough voices to justify acknowledgement, there were 10 residents alone who collaborated on a 14-page essay about why the resources offered were not good choices, and at least 4 are highly credentialed educators, whereas the digital tool for math and reading that the board is also asked to approve tonight only had 2 residents, to my knowledge, yet Nancy Justman never batted an eye. Vote no on McGraw-Hill and current events. Focus on history, which the administration admits there isn't enough time to accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our third speaker is Ms. Ann Molyneux, and on deck will be Mr. Monty Schmiege. Welcome, good evening. If you could state your name and relation to the district, and then the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. My name is Ann Molyneux. I have 2 students currently in the district. I'm here tonight to voice my support for the passage of the social studies curriculum as it stands. I send my kids to the public schools here because I believe in the expertise and professionalism of this district's teachers and administrators. I believe that these trained professionals should be the ones making curriculum decisions for the district. While I appreciate the district sharing the proposed social studies curriculum with the public, at the end of the day, the decisions should lie with the experts, teachers and administrators. To suggest otherwise is insulting to their positions within our community and our schools. Moreover, the social studies curriculum should consider or make room for the discussion of current events. Our students have access to current events via their social media every day. Social studies classes can allow students to better process these ever-changing events and challenging events in today's society. The social studies classroom and teachers allow students to effectively contextualize the events. This is not indoctrination, teachers' opinions, or activism, but this encourages students to think critically and ask questions. This is what I believe should be and is public education. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We invite forward Mr. Monty Schmiege, and on deck will be Mr. Bill Schultz. Good evening, Mr. Schmiege. If you could state your name and your relation to the district, and then the 3 minutes are yours. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Monty Schmiege. I'm a resident of the district. I had written an email to the board recently regarding policy 330, which concerns curriculum development, and asked 3 questions. Basically whether the process for the social studies consideration is following that policy. The policy begins by talking about standards and then proceeds to overview documents that are supposed to be approved by the board. The curriculum personnel of the district have been working on what are called priority standards, which are pullouts from the state standards, and they will be asking for approval. On that note, maybe as an aside, I would like to mention that Policy 330 does not require adoption of standards in July. It requires notification of adopted standards. And it doesn't make any sense to adopt standards in July for the coming year because standards drive the curriculum process, and so the curriculum has to be prepared adequately ahead of time to be used in that fall period. So standards could be adopted well before July with the caveat that, resources and overviews and curriculum will be developed on time. But they don't have to wait till January, July. The purpose of the priority standards has not been very clear, but that's going to come up in July, I guess. Well, that's what I'm told, so I believe it. So that will be coming up in July, but you're asked to adopt a resource, without consideration of those priority standards and without overview documents, which are called for in Policy 330. Now, I'm told that those overview documents will be prepared. I'm not quite sure when, because there are a couple of days set aside in July for teachers to work on this. And then I'm not sure if they're going to be even ready by August. I have not gotten clarification on that. I'm sure I could if I had an opportunity to ask. As far as I'm running out of time, so thank you very much.
Thank you. We invite forward Mr. Bill Schultz, and on deck is Abigail Hall. Mr. Schultz, if you'd state your name and your relation to the district, and the 3 minutes are yours. Welcome.
Hi there, Bill Schultz. I'm a dad of a student and a taxpayer in the district. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is defined as the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. Let's think about that for a second. It can be interpreted in many different ways, but how I interpret it is that students are being taught by computers and not the teachers. Even though the West Bend School District Administration has ensured that is not how this technology will be used, such as Amira, which is a tutoring tool. So I ask, if you're not going to use this technology for its intended use, then why bother using it? That is no different than me driving my semi-truck as a everyday grocery getter, or anybody that owns a sedan to haul their boat. I'm concerned with the implementation of this new artificial intelligence. These companies are funded by big tech companies, that the data collected from our students will get into the wrong hands, and the children might be forced to learn part of a curriculum that may not have been approved. If we have learned anything from COVID, and trust me, I cannot stand to bring that word up, but I must say it, that our children learn best from face-to-face, person-to-person, and teacher-to-student learning. Voting yes, very well, would take some of that much-needed one-on-one time away. I hope you've all done the research to understand that artificial intelligence has no room in the West Bend School District. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. We invite forward Ms. Abigail Hall, and then on deck is Ms. Tanya Lohr. Good evening. If you could state your name and your relation to the district, and then the 3 minutes are yours. Welcome.
I'm Abigail Hall. I have 2 current students and 1 future student. And I find the discussion from the last meeting around updating the social studies curriculum for grades 5 through 8 concerning for several reasons. The seeming lack of trust and respect for the expertise of the teachers and educators in our district was really disheartening. As a parent, I understand and appreciate the need for transparency in the curriculum. However, to be so strict as to not allow anything not previously included in the lesson plans, including the discussion of current events, would be a huge disservice to our students. Given that the majority of kids in grades 5 through 8 probably have access to a cell phone, they are well aware of the events happening in our world, and allowing them to discuss and process these events with other students in a school environment with a teacher to moderate the discussion should not be seen as a negative thing. I also think that not teaching anything more recent than 9/11/2001 is a little bit ridiculous. A lot has happened in the last 20 years. I think that as parents, if we are trusting the school system enough to send our children, then we also need to trust the professionals to choose the appropriate curriculum that follows state guidelines and the teachers to teach it in an age-appropriate way that allows students to develop critical thinking skills that will be necessary for the rest of their lives. I urge the board to approve the updated curriculum recommended. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We invite forward Ms. Tanya Lohr, and Ms. Carol Hager is on deck. Ms. Lohr, good evening. If you could state your name and your relation to the district, and then the 3 minutes will be yours.
Hi, my name is Tanya Lohr, and I have taught in the West Bend School District for 22 years. I am speaking today in my role as the president of the West Bend Education Association. A common concern I have heard throughout the year from parents, board members, teachers, and administrators is inappropriate student behavior in our schools. There is general agreement that it needs to improve. There also seems to be common agreement that part of the behavior issue is the way numerous students are treating teachers, and that students shouldn't be walking down the hall calling teachers effing bees or worse, or ignoring their request to behave.
But I wonder how many people have considered their own words and actions as one of the contributing factors to the problem. Children learn behaviors by observing others, especially adults. So when children hear and see adults being respectful towards teachers, they often try to match what they see and hear with respect, see and hear with respectful words and actions as well. However, when they hear adults verbally attacking teachers, it gives students the green light to attack them as well. There are obvious consequences to this, including the pain and trauma it is causing our district's teachers. But there are additional, less obvious consequences that must be considered as well. Depicting teachers as incompetent and incapable of making professional decisions on their own can lead to students choosing not to comply with directions given by teachers because they have been led to believe the teacher does not have the ability, authority, or competence to make that request. This creates a dangerous environment as teacher requests to stop swearing, stop name-calling, and to stop behaviors that could injure others go ignored. Parents want bullying to stop in schools, and so do teachers. But this can't be done unless teachers are empowered to do so. Their words have to have weight, their consequences have to be validated, and that can't happen when they're depicted as incapable of making day-to-day decisions or not being authorized to make decisions on their own. When adults refer to teachers as deceitful, manipulative, and as liars, students are less likely to trust them. This is a dangerous situation as the safety of a community relies in part on the willingness of students to disclose potentially dangerous situations to their teachers. Teachers are oftentimes the adults students go to when classmates make threats of violence, when students are concerned with a friend's alcohol or drug use, when a child is having suicidal thoughts, or when someone in their lives is hurting them. When children hear the message to distrust all teachers, serious issues go unaddressed, resulting in far more lives being damaged. And just as our concern about student behavior is a whole community concern, so are the solutions. Let us communicate with each other as the adults in the room rather than through others, including kids. And even when we don't agree, let's model the ability to be respectful. Let's avoid blanket statements about all teachers and instead address individual concerns as such. And finally, let's agree to treat teachers as professionals, knowing that treating them as anything less has far-reaching negative consequences for our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, and our final speaker tonight is Ms. Carol Hager. We invite you forward to the podium. Ms. Hager, if you could just state your name and your relation to the district, and then the 3 minutes are yours.
I'm Carol Hager, and I'm a taxpayer resident and a former parent of a student. As you know, as many of you know, I participated in the review of the McGraw-Hill Social Studies resources for grades 5 to 8. And as you know, I believe that the resources are poorly written and researched, and a number of residents, not just myself, found many errors, typos, misinformation, and political bias in each grade level's text. This, despite the fact that the local social media constantly criticizes many of us as uneducated, ignorant, and uninformed. It's hard to believe that our district can't find another resource that shows more intellectual excellence in its products. Some school board members in the past have stated that they do not see themselves as curriculum experts, that they prefer to leave curriculum decisions to the real experts, the administrators and the teachers. In this case, both administrators and teachers, though, chose McGraw-Hill. Here are a few of the worst examples I found in just looking at the 7th grade world history resource. When discussing the Great Society narrative, which is Johnson's government programs, you can see that that's a great example of the liberal indoctrination of the McGraw-Hill resource, as no facts or figures are provided to show how education was improved in the 1960s or how poverty was ended. Another example is the narrative about Islamic culture, which was highly politicized and sanitized and obsessed with presenting Islamic society in its best light. An incorrect statement also was made about that European war we know about that started in 1914. You know that war? They called it World War I. And then the book also said that after World War II, everyone knew it as the Great War. That's completely backwards. Another incorrect statement about Martin Luther writing the 95 Thesis was, it was according to legend, was the quote in the book. A summary of the life of Jesus, which was highlighted in a colorful separate block. It ended with Jesus' death by crucifixion. Later in the regular narrative, they did mention the resurrection, at least was described. I believe the district has chosen McGraw-Hill because the resources are available digitally and in several reading levels. But isn't accurate and balanced content of supreme importance? Will any of the bias be removed from the resources as we proceed this summer? And if so, who will be responsible for that? More time is needed to review additional publishers. Our students deserve better than McGraw-Hill Social Studies. They deserve content-rich, balanced educational materials. So board members, I ask you to vote no on the McGraw-Hill text tonight.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the public participation portion of our agenda. Thank you to all speakers. We'll move on then to, let's see, our consent agenda. And on our consent agenda, we have several items. First is the minutes of the May 12, 2022 regular board meeting, including executive session. We have 2 contracts to consider, 4 resignations, no retirements, revenues and expenses in the aggregate July 2021 through April 2022. And I think that was it for the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the consent agenda. Any final discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. All right. We're then on to our reports section. And tonight, our first report will be a school report. I have it right here, yes.
Thank you. We have 2 schools joining you tonight. So we're going to start out with Green Tree Elementary, presented by Jennifer Potter. And then we'll follow up with McLean Elementary, followed with Andy Kasich. Thank you.
Hello, we have a very special guest that came to join us as we are presenting. This is my buddy Snappy, who always likes to come to any events that we are present at to glorify our school. I am Jennifer Potter, and I'm going to be representing the wonderful staff and students at Green Tree Elementary School tonight. I've got to remember this, Tim, where are you? There we go. As we continue to unpack the goals of the school district, I want to take some time tonight to really break down how Green Tree helps support our district mission and vision. I'd like to start first by highlighting our student learning goals for this school year. Schools in our district use a data measure called STAR assessment. Students take the STAR 3 times a year, and we use this measure to help us look closer at student proficiency and student growth, and also how it supports an alignment to the Wisconsin State Forward testing. Since we start each year with such a wide range of student ability, we choose to use this assessment measure to look closer at the growth of students over time. Across presentations that you've seen regarding academics, we have shared information regarding student grade level proficiency. There's another way to look at data, though, and that is through the lens of growth. STAR measures how our students are growing compared to peers across the nation, as well as their own individual targets that are measured as calculated by STAR. We want to make sure that our students who might already have reached or exceeded proficiency are still struggling, or ones that are still struggling as learners, that we want to honor the students who might struggle while they haven't hit the target yet. We're looking that they make gains to close the achievement gap. Last year, we noted that 50 to 57% of our students in literacy and math were hitting their expected growth target. We made an aggressive jump this year to set a goal to impact student growth, and we are eager to see the results of this spring. We also wanted to take a moment to highlight and talk about the data from our employee engagement survey from last year that helped us to build our effective and efficient goal for this school year. Last year, one of our lower areas on the staff engagement survey was in the area of employees feeling that they had an opportunity to provide input into workplace decisions. As a goal, we set a target to include 80% or more of our whole staff to be involved in teams that would help make decisions for our school. We are really excited to report that 84% of staff members currently are involved in 2 or more of our school decision-making teams at this time. We've included members of our support staff on our school-wide leadership team, our goal teams, and other types of teams across the school that have helped increase participation and allowed more opportunities for input provided on the growth of the students and the staff. We have even moved one step further to increase parent participation on teams that focus on reinforcing positive behavior and increasing family engagement. The last goal that we want to highlight tonight is really in regards to how we support our district mission and vision in the area of safe and secure. A typical school goal might expect that 80% of students will respond to school-wide expectations. We decided at Green Tree to increase this goal for ourselves and aim to have 90% of our students respond to our school-wide expectations of being safe, being respectful, being responsible, and being ready to learn. 90% is intentionally very rigorous, and we are proud to say that at this time of year, we are starting to close in at 87%. To put this data into simple terms, this means that roughly 30 Green Tree students were in need of additional servicing this year to meet the school-wide expectations. Additional services might look like individualized education plans serviced by our special education department. It could look like interventions determined by a behavior support team that reviews behavior data weekly. Some of these supports might include check and check out system with staff members, mentoring, or even small group instruction focused on lagging behavioral skills. So overall, Green Tree is a wonderful, amazing place to work, whether it be teachers playing dress up, which clearly we love to do, students engaging in hands-on learning activities, or highlighting students' amazing extracurricular skills. Green Tree is one of all of our favorite places to be. And I appreciate you taking the time tonight to listen to information about our school. And please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll direct them to Snappy.
Thank you, Ms. Powder. Any questions?
What type of support do you need from us to make Green Tree even better?
We love people coming to visit us, and I think with the COVID restrictions being lifted, we love seeing people from the community. Our doors, I feel, have been open to we've done Rumble in the Jungle, just had kindergarten parents there. We've had a lot of community input, volunteers. So anytime that you guys are free to stop by, I know our teachers and our students would love to see that support. So please know our door is always open, and we're always looking for that.
Thank you.
Great. And how does one arrange that? Should we call ahead?
Call me.
All right.
And I'll put you in touch with Snappy. Sets it all up.
Thank you.
And Tina, who you met earlier, who got supported by everyone because she actually runs the school.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you guys. And I'd like to introduce Andy Kasich, my colleague, amazing principal at McLean Elementary School.
Mr. Kasich, welcome.
Hi. Thanks, Jen, for having Snappy here. And so
Where is the
Josh, our employee of the year back here. No, I'm kidding. So again, it's McTiger is napping right now, and so I'm glad I'm here. So welcome to all of you. I am not Jen Potter. Thank you, Mr. Harder. Thank you. There you go. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for having me here tonight, and welcome to our new board members and all the other veteran board members. Appreciate all the work that you have done so far. But I'll be asking Tim. Tim? I'm using the arrows. There we go. So as we talk about our vision as a district, for myself, it's very difficult to take this triangle and rip it apart and put it into separate sections. All of these are intertwined, as that outside circle says. And so you're going to hear that not only through Jen Potter, but myself. I am going the wrong way. There we go. So when we talk about student learning, Jen had spoken about the STAR assessment, and what you see up here as well is indicative of that. So I wanted to highlight an example of what meeting proficiency benchmarks according to STAR looks like. These graphs show our students' performance at fall and then at winter. Each one has a unique color, and we're eager to add our spring scores at the end of this year, which will demonstrate more growth than what we're seeing right now. This is one measure that is used to show how students are doing at grade level performances. Many of our students are not hitting the target yet. We have set aggressive goals according to that to impact achievement across multiple measures, such as classroom performance, the STAR, the state testing, and others in order for us to meet those goals. And with that, we also are able to dig a little deeper, and then our team meetings, our teachers have throughout the week, they are also digging into that information. When we talk about safe and secure, at McLean, we have 97% of our students who have 5 or less office referrals throughout the year. I like to consider that, we call that our McLean way. That is respectful, responsible, safe, and ready to learn each and every day when you enter the building. We have wraparound services, our support team, our school psychologist, our counselor, our family liaison, myself, teachers when needed. If we find a student who is struggling in the classroom, academics or behavior, we will meet 2 times a week, possibly put in some formal supports in place when needed, and informal check-ins occur on a daily basis. Trying. With no further ado, we move on then. We move on then to our engagement and customer satisfaction. Thank you, Mr. Harder. And so through that engagement and customer satisfaction at McLean, staff had indicated I have the opportunity to provide input into workplace decisions. That came back at 90%. And so when that means at McLean is that they have an opportunity to talk about our daily schedule. That could be part of our safety and secure procedures and building level professional development that may occur. And then an opportunity for growth for myself. The feedback I receive from my direct supervisor is beneficial. 75% are indicating that it is, but we also have 20% that is wanting more. So I'm really excited because of our district-wide administrator professional development is allowing us to learn a procedure called CEIQ. It's a model for feedback, and I am sure that I am going to grow in that way for our next round of that engagement survey. Perfect. So when we talk about innovation, we talk about a strength-based approach when we talk to students. And then all that is asking is for us as adults to reframe the way that we communicate. What that might, a very simple example, might take shape as a student comes in late to school. So instead of saying, oh, you're late again, students already know that they are late. We don't need to pile it on. So we change our language, especially in the front office, to, oh, we're so happy to see you today. We're really glad you could join us. And so that is also changing the shift in our daily practices. We have a problem-solving meeting. That is changed to a focus meeting. So again, it's changing that language to a very strength-based approach, and that really drills down to the areas a student may need in academic or social-emotional behavioral supports. By instituting this framework, the support team has been able to increase the timeliness, efficiency, and clarity of communication to support not only our learners, but our staff in the building as well. I had referenced the CEIQ, and this is the district provided professional development. I'm going to give you a little example on how this may sound. So Chris, I'm going to use you as an example. If you're one of my teachers, I do a drop-in, I come and do a formal observation. I would say, Chris, you have a consistent and highly effective pattern of questioning and returning to those who are confused by the question. Okay, so that would be the first part. For example, to Jen, I don't want to forget that question you just asked, Jen. So what would be the next steps in that process? All right, we follow that up with an impact question. As a result, Jen gets the message that you are interested in the question and want to be clear about possible next steps. We don't leave it at that. I follow up with then another question for Chris to say, Chris, What are some ways that you have incorporated over time that has built that trust with Jen, with others, to facilitate idea sharing through collegial conversations? So it is not scripting anymore. It is not just redefining what a teacher has done. It's putting that adult in a very collegial conversation where we can improve our practices, where I can improve my observation, and the teacher is also able to express their feeling throughout. Okay? And with that, I've been here a long time, 25 years, right? Thank you, Jen. For a lot of us, I have had your children at my building. I have friends of the family, right? I have new members of the community that I have not met yet. But at the center of my world is my staff. The staff is what makes everything run. All right, and so the offshoot, it is community, it's the fire department, it's having fun activities, dress-up days. It's about rewarding children for hard work, and it's about the upper right-hand corner, the first day, making that positive impression from day one. So the things that we're asking, all right? So Joel, you had asked Jen before, and I'm going to kind of preface that. What do I need? What do we need? I'm asking the board to continue to support the work within the classrooms by supporting our reading and literacy instruction with the purchasing of high quality reading materials. You've done that, and I urge all of you to continue that move forward. Supporting the district calendar and the quote-unquote gift of time that our teachers need on a continual basis for their own professional development and for their own work in order to be the best for our kids. And finally, opportunities to continue to recognize the positives that occur in the West Bend School District. So those are the things that I need the board to continue to leverage now and moving forward. Thank you.
Ooh, wait, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Since you said you've been here for 25 years, so going back to your slide where you talk about the growth from fall to winter, and obviously you're going to see more growth in spring, which I understand. I'm interested to know, and I know you won't have like data at your fingertips, but do you feel this perhaps was some of the lowest scoring that you've ever seen in the fall due to the effects of COVID? You know, the kids still coming back, or do you feel it was about what we've seen in the past?
You know, there are so many factors, Nancy, and we are a year past COVID. All right, and so we can continue to use that as a safety net, but I really think it is the engagement of kids and families we need to continue to focus on. I really do, and there isn't one thing to point to. The reality is the data is what it is, and we can try to push blame onto everything else, but we meet it. What are we going to do about it, and how are we going to go about doing it? And that's why continue to ask the board to continue to leverage those things that we're clamoring for.
I just think that some people don't necessarily understand somewhat how the STAR testing works, so if you could just indulge us a smidge more. So in fall, you're basically asking students who have been off all summer, who've been on summer brain, to come in and take a series of tests for math and for literacy, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
No, see, it's been a long time since I had a young learner myself. So then they take the same test in winter, and then they take the same test in spring.
Correct.
So realistically, what we're looking for is growth, whether it be tremendous, or for some students, it might be small because of their abilities on both sides, right, high or low. So I think that it's critical when people see STAR testing that they really look at all three pieces of information from fall, winter, and spring to get a clear-cut image of what actually happened in school during that entire year. You can't just look at the fall data and say, oh my gosh, that was horrible, because that's not really telltale of what's happening in the classroom throughout the entire year. Is that correct?
Yeah, and you painted that picture very well, Nancy, but what I would also say is that we're not going to put all of our eggs in that STAR basket. Because we have so many other things that are occurring within the classroom. We have Fountas of Pinnell progress monitoring and reading. That is another indicator. We have just general classroom performance for students. That's what paints the whole picture. And so it's really great that we, as a staff in a district, have this. But I would encourage parents not to take this, or anybody else for that matter, okay? Just don't take this and say, oh, doing really bad, or oh, doing really good, because there is so much more. And so being able, and Jen had said, call us, come in, let us walk you through it. Let us paint that picture for you for each building. And so that's why it's one of those things where it is going to change year to year. Kids aren't widgets. Kids are little humans, all right? And maybe they did really well in fall, but for some reason something in winter happened and it didn't go so well. Okay, but that's why we have that triangle that I said we can't rip it apart. That's why we can't rip it apart. Okay, that's why we have to have all those components working together at all times. Okay? Yeah, you bet. Anything else?
Other questions? Tommy?
Thanks for your presentation. Speaking of that and using the tools that are going to be the most effective, especially tools that assist teachers with in-person educating, can you give your opinion on the digital tools that we're considering this evening and how they would work within the classroom?
Yeah, that's great, because I mean, I think consistency in digital tools, 15 years at McLean, and I have seen things come and go, and I've been part of those where we purchase it and, oh man, that just did not work out very well. The digital tools that the district is thinking about at this point in time, I am not an expert on any of them by any stretch of imagination, all right? But all I can say is that all of the digital tools that have come and go have assisted. It has not replaced anything within the curriculum, okay? And so let's talk about struggling learners, all right? And when we talk about independent structures is a term that is used a lot. And that is, for a lot of times, a time for kids to just work on their own. But the kids aren't working on their own and the teacher is sitting somewhere else doing their own work. That educator is sitting with a small group of children, maybe tutoring, getting a second dose of the reading lesson or math lesson that just occurred, okay? And so the digital tools would build upon what has been done already, not replace, all right? So we can talk about the digital tools that they're on deck, if you will, for lack of a better term, but the digital tools that we use right now, all right, that's what we use them for. It never, ever replaces what we do face-to-face, individual with the child in the classroom. Anything else?
Just want to say thank you for your energy and your staff. So having been in your building just a couple times, not many, it's you look at the building, there's energy inside.
Well,
Tired outside, energy inside. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Next is our superintendent's report. Superintendent Wimmer.
Like you said, a little hard to follow that energy. I don't even have a mascot. A couple updates, you'll be seeing them. We just received, I'll kind of hold this up for everyone. This is a National Child Identification Program. This is sent to us by the state. It's for distribution to all of our families and students in the community. So we just received a whole pallet full of these. This is something if families choose to use. So we'll make sure and highlight that in our district newsletter. It's looking at fingerprinting, things of that nature, should the unthinkable occur, that you're feeling prepared as a family to work with local law enforcement around identification and relocation and reconnection with your own child. So again, receive those from the state. Look for those envelopes. We'll make sure they go home to all of our families. If you're watching as a community member, we'll make sure and have some available here. I'll work with community agencies so that they're available for pickup. And then we'll also share with our private and parochial school partners so they receive them as well. Again, we're kind of that flow through on behalf of all the community's children. So we'll make sure and highlight that in our news and reach out to those partners as well. So look for that soon.
And again, Superintendent, that is completely optional, correct?
Correct. This is something that, and you don't turn it in. It's an envelope. It's something that you would keep at home in your own records. If you need to use it, you could pull it out. So not only is it optional for you to use, it stays with you in your home under your lock and key, only used if needed. So again, we'll make sure and give a little blurb about that for people, how it is and isn't used by us. Again, we're just a flow-through agency to try and reach families and children in the community. We want to highlight, not here tonight because this was recent, our engineering design and development high school class just presented. We had 5 teams of 2 students each. They had to present their projects for family, friends, peers, and even a panel of industry judges. So I got to go over, students were dressed up talking about their different design. They worked on creative engineering and design projects, table hooks for backpacks, electronic car window defrosters, better functioning gas cans, pillows for sleepers who might have piercings, hearing aids, or like to wear earbuds at night, that kind of thing, and a net that picks up golf balls in bodies of water. So each team had to kind of undertake a design and solution to meet a need, go through product testing, garnering feedback on that, and again, with full presentations to families, visitors such as the superintendent, as well as a panel of judges. So thank you to Jacob Gitter, his student teacher as well, who put that together for our students. It was fantastic. You heard me because Deb Prowl was in the room at the time. A little shout out of recognition for our current and former students, for the staff. They were selected for the MOA Art Walk banners. Deb Prowl, again, art teacher at the high school. Miranda Kemp, a graduate and current custodian at the high school, as well as Grace Melstrand, who is here this evening. All 3 of their banners were selected. I know we just got word of that. I'm sure we'll promote that in our news and on some of our social media. Their banners are amazing, amazing. Just a reminder that it is kind of a snowball to the end of the school year, so it's quickly gaining on us, and there's a lot of upcoming events. So now through June 3rd is the digital media capstone display at West Bend Library, and that's a culmination of our students' hard work in photography and digital media. So again, open display, you can go view that at any time. And we have a couple specific ceremonies. On Tuesday, May 24th, at the high school will be the white coat ceremony at 4:30. That's for seniors who have completed all 4 of the biomedical Project Lead the Way courses. So Principles of Biomedical Sciences, Human Body Systems, Medical Interventions, Biomedical Innovations. I've had the opportunity to attend this presentation. They're formally presented with their white coat. They're going into health science fields. There's community speakers for medical professionals and a ceremony. So it's lovely to see. We have Senior Academic Honors Night that night as well at 7 p.m. Again, we've previously hosted Scholarship Evening, which we spoke about. This is our Senior Academic Honors Night. On Wednesday, you heard a plug from Deb and the students. Wednesday is the AP Art and Design show. Their reception is from 4 to 6 that evening. Their show will be up a little bit longer, but get over and see some of their works. And Thursday, May 26th, is military signing at 4 p.m. We're honoring all those students who are signing for military service post-graduation. Thank you to our local Veterans Association, Legion, VFW, et cetera. They come and support our students with some formal recognition. I know Mr. Donaldson, a veteran himself, will be present at that. It's an amazing experience to come and honor. We also do a recognition during graduation ceremonies for those who have served, those who will be serving their country in some way, but it's a special ceremony indeed. Shortly right after that is the very first game, East and West playing the first baseball game at the Cuss Memorial Field. We'll kick off ceremonies at 5 p.m. I think game start will be around 5:30, but again, formal posting of colors. We've got some speeches, recognition of donors, some ceremonial first pitches, but really excited. We had been watching grass grow for a long time with our fingers crossed, so excited to be able to play that first game. We would enjoy for everyone to come join us and watch East and West take each other on in that day. Another special event, Friday, May 27th, is the grad walk. All of our students don their cap and gowns and return to their elementary schools to walk halls, say thanks to their teachers, and get recognition, and it culminates in a large luncheon on campus. So a lot of planning, but whether you're meeting the kids at elementary schools or coming to see them at the high school, it's an amazing event to see. It's a really special time. And thank you to our students and our staff. They'll be featured in the Memorial Day Parade and program on Monday, May 30th. So the program master of ceremonies is East Social Studies teacher Scott Mindel. West Bend sophomore Isabella Pescador will recite the preamble to the Constitution. West senior Madison Guerin will recite the Gettysburg Address. West sophomore Kayla Dodge will recite the poem In Flanders Fields. So thank you to our staff and students in that special recognition for our community. And Tuesday, May 31st marks Star Search. It's the high school talent show. It's starting at 7 p.m. Tickets are available. I believe you can purchase them in advance or at the door. So come and check that out. And just a reminder, our last day of school is Friday, June 3rd, and that's marked with early dismissal. Look for communications from your principal, or I believe we've got that posted on our website, so you're understanding what that dismissal time is. And culminating the year with a Sunday, June 5th graduation with East ceremony at 1 p.m. and West at 4:30. So thank you to those graduation committees that have been busy probably for the bulk of the year planning that exciting event and recognition. So a lot going on at the end of the year. There's pretty much something every night. Stay connected to district calendars, school calendars, and join us in recognitions when you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Wimmer? All right, hearing none, we will move into our action items. First action item is WIAA Cooperative Team Sponsorship for Girls Soccer. I believe one or more of our athletic directors will present this. Good evening.
Hello there. So I am actually the one who oversees our co-op. But Molly and I, we work collaboratively on everything as far as the co-ops for our school district go. So what we are here today to do is to ask for, to create an official WIA co-op for our girls soccer program. So it would be between East and West. And just to give you a little background information, this year for the 2022 season, we are currently combined as one program. So we did a lot of research. We surveyed the students. We talked to our coaches and families and got a lot of feedback leading up to it. And honestly, it's been nothing but a positive experience. So the kids love it. The parents have been very pleased. And the reason for that was simply just because of the participation numbers. We collected all the data for the past 5 years and looked at that. And unfortunately, we weren't at a point where we had enough girls interested in soccer at both East and West High School to make it a fun, safe, enjoyable experience. Sure, you can look at the numbers in front of you and say, well, you could probably put out 11 on the field, but are they truly 11 student athletes that should be playing at the varsity level, or should maybe they be at the JV level? But this at least gets them the opportunity to have a program and compete and enjoy it because they're playing at their appropriate level. So we have to turn in a form to the WIA to be an official WIA co-op by June 1st. So that is what we are here to do, to seek your approval.
So this year you have 48 girls, and that, I assume that fills a varsity and a JV team, correct?
Yep. So actually looking at our signups in the beginning, there were several kids who told us, absolutely not, we won't play if it's just East or if it's just West. And then a whole bunch of girls came out of the woodworks and signed up for the program, which is wonderful. We do have several seniors right now in that breakdown that we'll be losing for next year, but we would love to have the co-op for the next 2 years is what we would be signing this for, to give us the opportunity to really build up girls soccer in the community and do more programs at the youth level so that hopefully in the future we can go back to having an East team and a West team.
Any other questions?
So if you have more students who join next year, do you have the ability to have 3 teams? JV 1,
we
JV
do,
2?
yep. So
Okay.
I would love to have a JV 2 as a freshman, sophomore team as well, which would be great.
Okay. Then I move to approve the girls soccer co-op to be WIA sanctioned.
I'll second.
Thank you, Joel. Motion and second to approve girls soccer co-op to be WIAA sanctioned. Any final discussion?
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
So this is a 2-year commitment, and so if numbers continue to improve, well, it's 2 years, not counting this season, correct?
Yeah, no, it would be the 23 season and then the 24 spring season.
So it doesn't matter if numbers go up, we're locked in on a co-op for 2 years.
Yep, so in a rule, just so you know, with WIA co-ops, is you actually can't cut. So no student, we can't get to a point where, okay, this is too big, let's start cutting kids. Every student would be allowed the opportunity to play girls soccer.
Okay, and by joining, by this WIA sanctions means we can participate in postseason playoffs and regionals or however soccer does it.
Correct, yeah. So this year, our season will be coming to an end at the end of this week, actually.
No
So
matter
there
how
won't be
good we are.
Correct.
Okay,
But we've seen significant improvement. I mean, honestly, the smile on the girls' face when they beat Slinger 2-0 was like they won the state championship. So that was worth it in itself right there.
and a couple of seasons from now, if we get to 100 girls playing soccer, we could go back to an East and a West team?
For sure. We're keeping all our West and East gear, and we have it ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, hang on a second.
Wait, we're not done.
We haven't voted yet.
That's right, we have to
All right.
vote
We
yet.
might have about 10 more questions for you.
All right, I'm
I'm
ready.
done, but they might have more questions.
I just want to comment that I appreciate that you're found a solution to keeping soccer accessible and also fun and enjoyable, because it is more fun when you're doing well. And I just appreciate that you found a way.
Thank you.
I think it's healthy for the program to be competing for a spot on the varsity team, and then also not having to cut girls. You can have a JV team, maybe even a JV2 or whatever it's called. So I
In
think
the
it's,
past, there just hasn't been enough room for player development.
Mhm.
And, because everybody was playing varsity. They weren't varsity ready, and then their skills just weren't developing. So that's what our goal with if they grow, if the numbers grow, that's great. And then we hope to initiate the JV2 program, but we have to monitor over the next several years to make sure that, we're doing things the right way, that we keep it competitive, balanced, but still, safe and enjoyable and all of those things.
what sports compete for girls' athletics this time of year?
Track and field is going on right now for track. Softball. Trap shooting has girls on the team. Lacrosse.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, there is a motion and second on the floor to approve the girls soccer co-op to be WIAA sanctioned. I'll call the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and next is our Head Start Basic Grant carryover request for 2021-2022. And Matt Durant is going to walk us through that. Hello, good evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again, Board. I'm here tonight in place of Mrs. Jamie Malsom. She was here 2 weeks ago and brought these items up to you. So tonight, seeking action on the first item. The first one is, as Jamie talked about, is a carryover, and it is because we ran fewer routes on transportation this year, so we're just seeking to move those transportation funds into the next school year. Any questions about that?
Questions?
Motion to approve.
Second. This is a motion and second to approve the Washington County Head Start Basic Grant carryover of unobligated funds from the 2021 through 2022 school year to the 2022-2023 school year, which is a bit of a mouthful. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, the motion carries. Thank you for coming.
And then similarly, we have a second one. This is the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Grant. So we received some additional funding related to that, and we, again, are seeking to carry over some of those funds into the next school year.
Any questions?
What will this be used for then?
Sure. There's a breakdown. So we have a majority of it going to personnel costs, some supplies, so we work with 3 and 4-year-olds, and as you can imagine, 3 and 4-year-olds do tend to go through equipment pretty rapidly. So some of it's just on a replacement cycle. And then we do have a contractual item on there that is related to some updates to our playground.
Other questions?
Motion to approve?
Motion and second to approve the Washington County Head Start carryover application of unobligated one-time CRRSA funds from the 21-22 school year to the 22-23 school year. Any final discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
All right. And our school board meeting calendar. Superintendent Wimmer.
Sure. Last meeting, we had a discussion regarding development of the calendar. We talked about doing that consistently with Mondays. We talked a little bit about time, still sticking with 5:30, and then looking for any potential conflicts in the calendar that was developed. So you see the dates before you, with recognition as September 26th being the date for an annual meeting as well. So we're seeking to approve that so we can post that and start planning.
Questions for Superintendent Wimmer? Hearing none, I would move to approve the board meeting calendar as presented with the annual meeting to be held on September 26, 2022. There's a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kurt. Motion and second to approve the board meeting calendar as well as the annual meeting to be held on September 26, 2022. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good, thank you. We have a school board meeting calendar. That motion carries. All right. So next on our agenda is the election of school board officers. And I was just going to kind of walk through, unless you wanted to, Superintendent?
Nope, I can certainly
Go
walk
ahead.
through.
All right.
Again, we had the same discussion last time. It's annual board reorganization. Officers take their positions for 1 year's time. We had preliminary discussion who might have expressed interest. We asked for people to express interest to the board president or myself in the interim. We had received no further conversation or interest. So at this time, I'll just kind of walk you through, and you can do that procedurally. So we would need, we're going to elect those in order. So we would need a motion to nominate someone for president. Is there a motion to nominate someone for president?
I'd like to nominate Chris Weigert for president, please.
Second.
First, let's ask Chris if he'd like to accept that nomination.
I will accept the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. It was seconded by Joel Ongert, and then you can proceed for a vote. If anyone else like to nominate someone or express interest.
Any other nominations? All right. Hearing none, we would move forward for election.
Yep. You would go ahead and take vote on that first position.
All right.
And one at a time.
We'll do that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries.
Thank you. The next position would be vice president. Currently, Nancy Justman serving as an interim basis, also expressed interest. In between meetings, I've had no one else express interest, so we'd be seeking a motion to nominate someone for vice president.
I move to nominate Nancy Justman for vice president. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Nancy, do you accept the nomination?
Sure.
All right. Are there any other
Anyone
nominations?
else? Yeah, anyone else or any other motion?
I would like to also.
Go for vice president?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Right.
then we'll have to kind of recombobulate. We can put ballots into place for that, so we would need to have everyone go forward. So we have two people. You need to be nominated by someone. So is there a motion and a second? John Donaldson has expressed interest in serving as vice president for the year.
John, you can move forward for yourself. Do you make that motion?
I'll make a motion for myself.
All right.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
All right, motion and second. So we would need to proceed to,
Yep,
we can
you
either
can
do
then
ballot
go to
vote or
ballot.
voice vote? Ballot vote? All right, very good.
Sorry, we'll just need to prep a little bit.
That's all right.
Did you have any paper? This is the one time the board can vote by ballot. I think you were bringing some just in case. Sorry. Like,
Well,
oh, I'm
I
gonna
have
steal
some.
Jenny's.
Okay, I was gonna say I have some roll call vote ones, but that'll work. Thank you.
Sorry, a little impromptu. We can make it.
All good.
I hand out a ballot to each of you. I'd ask for you to, there you go. Write your selection for vice president on that ballot. I'll come around and collect those momentarily. Mixing these up. I'm going to ask the clerk, Joel, you're acting as clerk, if you can separate these into 2 piles for each candidate.
Oh, you want me to
You're
open
going to have
them?
to,
Look
you're gonna
at
have to
them.
open them and read them.
Nancy Justman, Nancy Justman, John Donaldson, Nancy Justman, John Donaldson, John Donaldson. Nancy Justman wins 4-3.
Thank you for that.
Right, so we don't need a motion or second on that. That was a vote by ballot. So Nancy, thank you for your service. John, thank you for your interest. We'll move on then to clerk, correct? Superintendent Wimmer.
Correct. So at our last meeting, we have currently Joel Ungert is serving as an interim clerk. We had Tanya Schmidt express interest, she served as clerk before, had no other interest outside of that meeting. So we could have a motion to nominate for clerk.
I'll motion to nominate Tanya Schmidt.
Thank you. Motion and second to nominate Tanya Schmidt for clerk. Tanya, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Are there any other nominations? All right, hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Tanya, thank you. And lastly, treasurer.
Lastly was treasurer. Kurt Rebels has served in that role for multiple years, expressed interest in continuing in that. We would need a motion to nominate. No one else in the interim has expressed interest to myself or the board president, but Kurt has expressed interest in continuing. So we would need a motion as such.
I move to nominate Kurt Rebels for treasurer.
Second.
Motion and second to nominate Kurt for treasurer. Kurt, do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? All right, hearing none, I will call the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Kurt, thank you for your service as treasurer. Appreciate it.
So just to note, those will become official with the board action. So we'll slate those into the role for the next year. Another is serving as secretary is Peggy Schmidt, who is the secretary to the superintendent. That role serves as a secretarial role and support position for board members as well. It's not an elected position, but just to make note that she serves in that capacity as well.
Great, thank you. We move on to board committee and delegate assignments.
That's another piece where we talk about formal representation of the district. One is in the CISA 6 Board of Controls. I've noted the annual meeting time for that. There's other monthly meetings that you could choose to attend. The one annual event, June 22nd at 5:30. We would want formal representation there. Otherwise, you can choose to attend the monthlies. You can see at your table, I'm going to steal Melanie's. You also get ongoing communication from CISA regarding their services and pieces. So we had some people express some preliminary interest in wanting to learn more, have gotten some information. So just seeking if there's anyone formally interested in serving in that role.
I'll do it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. We appreciate that. Again, the one piece is that June meeting, and then you can choose to represent. We certainly have regional representation. It's an exciting way to network across districts in the region, maybe pick up some new things to bring back to our district. So I appreciate that. The next is Wisconsin Association of School Boards. That convention's held in January. We looked again to see if they had those dates posted. They don't just yet. We look for a delegate and an alternate. Remember that WASB will put together some resolutions. They take them to that annual meeting, and you go in and you actually vote on behalf of the district. We do bring those forward each December prior to that to discuss the different resolutions, their impact to the district, and talk about how you want your delegate to represent the district. So there is that direction for the delegate. It serves as your annual state conference. So while that's been kind of a mixed in-person and virtual, I know they did the delegate assembly virtually as well. So I know Joel has served in that role before, said he was willing to serve again, but also opened it especially, to our newer members, if that's something that is the state convention at that time for your organization. So not sure if there's anyone who'd like to express interest to be the formal delegate for that convention.
Any other interest?
As I said 2 weeks ago, I'm happy to do it. I think I've done it 2 or 3 times. I find it interesting. It's not much of a commitment other than that day of the convention. You can either go or do it virtually, and you vote virtually. So if someone else would like to do it, I'm happy to step aside. Otherwise, I'd be happy to do it again if no one else has any interest.
Do we need an alternate?
I'd like to have an alternate on deck. It's nice to have a primary and an alternate, just so that we're set. Should something occur, we're seamless in who needs to do what.
I'd volunteer to serve as alternate, unless other interest. Anyone else?
Still fighting over that formal
Exactly.
rep. Anyone? Joel, could we lead
I'll
on
be
you?
happy to do
Thank
it.
you.
Sure, you bet.
So,
Do you need votes on either one of these two?
Yep, so what we'll do, just to formalize that, we can do that as one. So assigning delegates, we have John Donaldson volunteering to be the CISA 1 delegate, and then the Wisconsin Association of School Boards delegates for the convention, Joel with Chris as the alternate.
I move to nominate John Donaldson as our CISA 6 Board of Controls rep, and I'll nominate myself to be the WASB School Board Convention delegate, and Chris Swigert is the WASB School Board Convention alternate.
Second. All right. Motion and second for John Donaldson for CISA 6 and Joel Ongert for WASB, with Chris Swigert as alternate. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you. Next thing to take care of is formal committee assignments. We have policy committee, curriculum committee. Each of our new members have expressed interest and already started doing some work on policy. John has expressed interest in policy. So currently it stands as John Donaldson, Joel Ongert, and then Chris Swigert as our policy committee. Was there anyone else interested in joining? So we have those 3 members for that. Next is Curriculum Committee. Currently, we have Tanya Schmidt returning to Curriculum Committee. We've had Melanie certainly express interest in joining that committee formally. Is there any other members interested in joining the Curriculum Committee?
I'd like to add that we will now be meeting at 6 p.m. instead of 8 a.m., which might make it more accessible to other people who would like to join the committee.
Hearing none, then we would ask for a motion and a second around those committee assignments for the coming year.
I would move to appoint Chris Swigert, Joel Ongert, and John Donaldson to Policy Committee, and Tanya Schmidt and Melanie Erga to Curriculum Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
Melanie.
I'll give that to Melanie.
Thank you, Melanie. Motion and second on the Policy and Curriculum Committee. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. The motion carries. This is the annual meeting where we go through this organizational process. So thank you, Superintendent, for walking us through that. We'll move on then to the budget amendment for the 21-22 school year. And I believe Mr. Andy Sarno is going to walk us through this. And Mr. Sarno, this is the second time we're seeing this, correct?
It is correct. I appreciate the opportunity a couple Thursdays ago, presenting the information, and even just going through the logistics and the statutory requirements of this process. It is fairly formal. In fact, I still have, and I'm going to go over here, I still have the document, and I did update it. There's about $50,000 that I was able to capture from the last presentation until now. We still have a balanced budget. We are utilizing some of the federal stimulus dollars this year, less than we originally were in October, but just a smidge more since I presented on the 12th. But we have this document as well. I'd be happy to go through it. Additionally, I have a second document, and this is what I referred to in the minutes, or in the executive summary, but this is the actual document that will be published in the newspaper. I referred to it at the last meeting. I formalized it so we can see that. Statutorily, this has to be published within 15 days of the approval, so I would facilitate that process, include the clerk in that information going out, make sure that that happens. This has no impact on the taxation rate, the levy, anything like that. Literally, it's a spend plan change from when we set the final budget in October until now, because things change over the course of time.
Questions?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommended budget for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
I second that.
Thank you. Motion and second to accept the recommended budget amendment for the 21-22 school year as presented. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries, which takes us to meal prices for the 22-23 school year.
I appreciate that, sir. Unchanged from when we met a week and a half ago, and as I was, we had Director of Nutrition finalist interviews this last week, and really we talked about this, and the big piece, and I'll say it 3 times, almost like location, 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 is participation, participation, participation. So that's what we're looking for this coming year. Above and beyond that, we need to increase our quality. We have to look at variety, and we have to look at efficiency. But I think between setting the meal prices in those different components, we have that flexibility to be able to deliver a good product to our parents and our students. But unchanged information from a week and a half ago.
I'll make a motion to accept the meal prices for the 2022 to 2023 school year as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion and second to accept the meal prices for the 22-23 school year as presented. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries as well.
I appreciate your support.
Thank you. All right. All right. We will move on to social studies grades 5 through 8 resource. I welcome Dr. Reese to the podium. Good evening. You have all sorts of technical helpers.
I apologize. I closed out one of Dr. Jill's.
That's right. Good evening.
Good evening, thank you. So I'm going to start with social studies, and we really are here tonight for action, but there were a few questions that came up in the interim, so I hope you don't mind if I take a couple minutes to go through those questions. So if you look at the slides, they were included in the board information. So I just want to give you an update on kind of our current status. First of all, if you look at our 5th through 8th grade social studies, we currently don't have a textbook that is used across the classrooms. And so really teachers are working with handwritten units, and they've been through really a revision of 6 different curriculums in about 10 years. So just to be clear about that. They're working from really a skeleton of framework that kind of details out instruction, but they have to do a lot of research and creation on their own. And so it's really important to note that. We've gotten feedback, and I know that this was asked last time at the board meeting. We've gotten a variety of feedback, and the feedback that we've received has been provided, clarified that there were about 10 contributors. Also feedback on specifically McGraw-Hill as a vendor. We also received feedback on standards. And the other thing that we have recently received feedback on is policy and process, and particularly policy 330. So just for clarification. So then just to further drill down a little bit on policy 330 and the policy and process. So there's been some question about standards, and I just want to clarify, after going through board docs and getting a clearer understanding of the standards process in the district, this is kind of the timeline and the rundown of what's happened with standards. So standards were in place and officially in place since August of 2015 through a board adoption. The state standards, in social studies in particular, were brought in 2018. The district reviewed, and the board presentation was provided then in February 2019 on the specific changes in the social studies standards. So nationally, there was something called the C3 framework. That was social studies national standards. The state made modifications to that and brought in the state social studies standards revisions in 2019. So those were approved in July 15th of 2019. Again, each year, those standards have been affirmed and approved in July 2020 and July 2021 as required as part of an annual process. Currently, just to clarify about that, there's no process right now to change those standards. We do have a document in review that will go through curriculum committee that is called priority standards. And it's not just for social studies, it's for all 4 core areas. But that would follow the process that we have in the district in terms of going to curriculum committee, coming to the board for review, and then going to action and those things. So that is not what we're currently looking at for action on tonight. We're looking for action purely on the textbook and the resources. Part of this continuous improvement cycle, which is stated in policy 330, is to do this review of the resource, select, adopt, and go through revisions. And so that's currently part of the process that we're involved in, that we've been working on since November. In the course overview pieces of the policy, we have these things to work on. And I agree it's a heavy lift, but it's something that we'll work on once we have the resource in place. So we need to find and adopt that primary resource. We need to write course overviews. We need to make sure we're using and identifying priority and focus standards from the state standards, develop assessments, write units of study, and engage in professional learning. And all of those different pieces come before the school board, and actually first the curriculum committee, then the school board as we do that work.
Before you move on, can I ask a couple
Absolutely.
questions here? So the difference between a priority standard and just the regular state-adopted, board-adopted standards, are priority standards a subset of the overall standards where it's where our school district locally wants to put their focus, or are they completely different standards in addition to the state-adopted and board-adopted standards?
That's a really good question. They are not different standards. If you look at the scope of standards that the state provides, it's very, very wide. And so this is really taking and looking at what can be high leverage and accomplished in a year to help a student learn at their highest level. And so it's looking at bringing forth those big ideas and those big concepts out of those standards. So it's kind of a melding of those big ideas in the standards, but it's directly from the state standards. It's not a different set of standards.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I have a question.
John?
So I know there's a parent study group that gave a good option from the Hillsdale Charter School curriculum. How deeply was that looked into as a viable option for this? And did we actually do enough research into it to see if it would be better than what we're actually trying to adopt now? Because from what it sounds like, and what it appears to be in my research from reading all the documents and everything that was sent over, that probably would have been a better option. Why did we decide not to do that?
Yeah, good question. That actually went to curriculum committee. because that was an option that was shared by a stakeholder. And so we did do a review of it, and I actually talked with the publisher from Hillsdale just to get an understanding, because I believe, if I remember, I'm not going to have the right name of it, but I believe it was the 1776 document or curriculum, or I don't have the exact name. When I talked to them, so I read through it, and I talked with them because I wanted to get some clarification on the level for which it was intended. And so the intent of that is to be a curriculum overview document, but not curriculum itself. The other thing I clarified with them is majority of the writings and things they have as attachments or things they have for student readings are at the college to adult level for reading levels. And so in understanding that when we're looking at 5th graders, 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders, it probably didn't fit very well. The other piece is just understanding how we have multiple classrooms and multiple teachers in multiple schools. We would have a lot, like all these things I listed on the course overview, we would have a lot more of that work to do if we adopted something that was kind of skeletal like that, and we'd have to adapt reading levels on all of it. So we did look at it very clearly and just see that it probably wasn't a fit for our system at the time.
Okay, follow up. So we have a 36-page front and back, obviously, which is half that, but of concerns by the community.
Correct.
I understand you have in here, updates and answers of what's going on and what you guys are, intending on looking through and submitting for issues. Who's going to be the overseer to make sure all these things are remediated?
Well, I can tell you I would do my due diligence, but it will be a team of people. It will be the curriculum committee, and it will be a team effort, and along with the teachers and the staff who are doing some of the writing units of study and things like that.
But all those would have to be after we adopt it tonight.
Correct.
So we wouldn't really know for sure if they get fixed.
So I've reached out to the publisher and got their good word that they will fix those things. I would take them at their word and know that we would contract with them to do that work.
And if we find that it doesn't, what happens then?
I guess I can think backwards sometimes when we adopt technology and things don't go the way we think they should or whatever. Sometimes I know there have been situations where we've backed out of contracts or changed contracts. We would certainly do that if it was egregious and we needed to do that. But, at the start, we would certainly seek to take them at their word and work together with them.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but on the bottom of your slide, it talks about writing course overviews, writing units of study, identifying of standards, success criterias. That does come back to the board for approval.
Correct.
In July. You can't do that work unless you have a primary resource to work off of. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so I don't know if this answers Mr. Donaldson's question, but that also gets approved by the board in July, along with all kinds of other course overviews and units of study and things like that.
Correct. The one thing I would throw a little caution on is I don't know that we'll have it already by July, but certainly into fall. That's a pretty big lift if you look at that list. And if curriculum gets approved and we get that textbook in June, July, we're looking at a running start. So we will do our due diligence to get that work done.
Just to clarify, splitting that work so that it comes forward before it goes into classrooms, you're just thinking that this summer we'd focus on probably first semester, then fall, focus on that second semester.
Correct.
So then all checks and balances, Tanya and Melanie, who signed up for curriculum committee, guess what you'll be doing for a little bit. But then those two, John, to your point, when you talk about kind of who's the gatekeeper on that, it falls to Tanya and Melanie to direct Jill and the teams and to vet that there. And then once they determine it's ready to come forward, we might give updates along the way to the full board. But then when they deem it ready to come out of committee, then it comes before the board for, as you've seen, the cycle of discussion and then eventual action once we've addressed all questions.
So we just included one more time the original social studies timeline because just to clarify that we had started actually with teachers in October, started bringing it forward for discussion in November to curriculum committee and teams. But in February, the curriculum committee asked for more time. So that's how we kind of got to May. So just to clarify that, that's kind of how we are where we are. The rest of the slides in here are from last week, so I'm not going to go through them unless somebody has a particular question about one of those slides.
Am I reading the timeline slide correctly that the materials would have been out for public review in January? Is that right?
Yeah, they were out, and actually this they were out even longer than this. So they're out January 12th through February 2nd. And part of that was because there was some community stakeholders that asked for more time. And because we had this 24/7 access, I was able to say we can do that. So we left it open as long as we could so I could still get things ready for the curriculum committee that week. So I left it open until the day before curriculum committee and then put those things together for the curriculum committee in the morning.
Thank you.
I think it's important to note that this is not the end of the work that is going to be done. It's actually, there's still a lot left to do. So the vote tonight is just for the resource material, and so we can get on with the business of developing everything around it. And while it's not ideal, McGraw-Hill, we have not been able to find a substitute that is better. So if that existed, we've had time to look for one, and we haven't seen any proposals that are as substantial as what we need.
Correct. And I just go back to the first slide that we talked about tonight is we don't have a current textbook across all classrooms, and we don't have a framework for teachers to start from. And that's really about adopting the resource to do that. And then that other work continues. So thank you.
Other questions or discussion?
I appreciate the work that our 5 through 8 teachers put into teaching social studies today. And what I say, I certainly don't want to take away from what they have been doing for the past, sounds like 8 to 10 years, which is a skeleton of a framework and handwritten units that could be different from building to building or even teacher to teacher. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so, I mean, I've said it before that no resource is perfect, but teachers need a resource to write their units of study and their course overview documents. And, you know, although McGraw-Hill's not perfect, none of them are, but I think it would certainly be better and give a lot more stability to our teachers than what they are currently doing and have been doing. So, you know, I would hate to delay this even more. We've already delayed it several months, and I don't know that there's a resource out there that people in the community aren't going to be able to poke holes in. It just doesn't exist. And resources are meant to be adopted locally by our teachers and administrators and staff, and then of course approved by the board. So I look forward to that continued work.
Thank you.
I'll just add, I think there's just too many risks for me, you know, with all the concerns from local. So I understand there's been a lot of work going on, and I do appreciate it also. So I just wanted to add that, though. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Melanie?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I haven't really seen a lot of good feedback from the documents that have been sent out or heard from anybody. I don't know if those are the only people that actually went through the curriculum or if nobody else cared to take the time to look through it. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of like miscommunication almost, like with the whole current events thing. By saying like, okay, and not even that I pick like September 11th as like the date, but just that that's what was communicated. And then, oh wait, but we really are going to still teach current events, but we're not going to use this resource, but we're pick something else. It just feels too wishy-washy to me. And yeah, so I'm not going to be voting in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other thoughts, questions? All right, so you're looking for a motion to approve the, let's see if I have it here, the McGraw-Hill resources for grades 5 through 8. Is that correct?
Social studies, yeah.
For social studies.
Mhm.
I would move to approve the McGraw-Hill Social Studies grade 5 through 8 resources as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second to approve McGraw-Hill Social Studies grade 5 through 8 resources as presented. Final discussion.
I'd just like to add that a no vote on this means that we're okay with our teachers using different textbooks across classrooms and handwritten lessons that have been developed by individual teachers from classroom to classroom, from school to school, a skeleton of a framework. That's what a no vote on this means. And so if we're concerned on what our teachers are going to be teaching, that should be more scary than voting in favor of a uniform resource across the district.
I agree.
Or, well, I just think that maybe there are better resources out there. If we're going to be spending all this money on the resource, it should be something that is quality that the community can stand behind.
All right, thank you for the additional discussion. I will call the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
We'll reflect that Mr. Donaldson and Ms. Aragot for the minutes voted no. Thank you for that. The motion carries 5-2. All right. We'll move then to the next item. Thank you, Dr. Reese.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the digital tools, grades K through 4 for literacy and math.
So again, this was brought forth last week, and I have Mr. Harder here as my counterpart. So we had some questions come in about this, so we have a few slides to answer some questions about this also. And Mr. Harder has some information on cybersecurity to talk about this too, and then we'll look for possible action. There were a few questions about some things with some of the tools. So we're just going to do a quick overview, some data privacy steps, and some associated costs. So I just want to clarify, this slide was in the first presentation, but this is really about bringing in universal digital tools that provides all of our students district-wide equal access to high-quality digital learning. And so there was a survey that we sent out just to get a handle on where we were with digital tools. And we have 13 to 15 different tools being used in our K-4 elementary schools. And they're all different, and each school uses different things. So we do have 2 schools using Dreambox right now, which is one of the tools we have on our list for bringing forward. They purchased that at their own cost. And so that, again, wraps into some of these budget discussions and things like that, how we can support schools. But also, part of this is bringing in a level set of digital tools so all students have access. And that's what we're talking about here, is creating that district level access for every K-4 student that we have in the district. So that's part of it. Again, I just have these vendors kind of listed. And so just, again, to go through, Lexia is increasing early literacy skills. Amir is the artificial intelligence software that conducts running records, dyslexia screener, fluency assessments, things like that. The 2 math tools are Happy Numbers and Dreambox. Happy Numbers is really problem solving and fluency. Dreambox is the same, but it's a little bit different format. It's more game-based. Sorry, I got ahead of myself there. So a couple things. I'm just going to go through the tools really quickly because there were some questions about the tools in particular. So I have to apologize because there was a misunderstanding about the Amira tool. And if you just Google Amira and you didn't get a chance to go into our district resources, there's an app out there that is part of HMH, but it's specifically for home, parent, and family use, and it's not part of the school suite that we would be purchasing. So the school suite is really set on connecting through this HMH Ed platform, and it's focused on growth of student as a reader, providing data for teachers, and further identifying any student misconceptions or needs that they might have. Parents can access that platform once their student has an account at home, but the app is not the same thing. And so it's really a gamified version of it that it does provide tutoring for students, but it's in a gamified app. It's not the same as these school accounts. So just clarification on that. Hold on. Oh, sorry. Then this is I just wanted to go through the list of things that Amira really does provide. And so there's a pretty big description there, which I'm going to let you guys take a look at. But they do this thing called oral reading fluency, and that's really the running records. They practice reading comprehension with the students. They have a dyslexia screener. They do this one-on-one running records with this ORF assessment, and they do provide one-to-one tutoring as the student is reading. Something to clarify in the set of tools that are in here. So there are some questions about sets of books and things that were maybe in Amira. And so Amira does use the Harcourt Mifflin Library ebooks. However, as students are reading, it's up-leveling, down-leveling, providing different vocabulary in the reading. So students are not reading an actual book. They're reading sets of phrases and sentences from all different versions of books and things. So it's not like an adapted set of books. Some people were asking about that, and I just wanted to clarify. It's really kind of in their zone of proximal development where it's giving them phrases. So Lexia Core 5 is an early literacy acquisition tool that focuses on these 6 areas: phonological awareness, phonics, vocabulary, structural analysis, automaticity, fluency, and comprehension. Happy Numbers is also designed to provide students with the learning experience in their ZPD, or zone of proximal development. It builds an individual math dialogue and responds to students in an interactive way that unpacks concepts steps by steps as they solve problems. And Dreambox is something that I said a couple of our schools currently use, but they purchased that out of their own accounts and with some of the schools with PTO support. It really is a seamless integration of instruction and assessment in math. And students get this kind of deeply personalized experience. The lessons themselves are sort of like, so it's not books or a set of certain like leveled books that kids are doing math problems from. It's really, again, kind of like a scenario, and kids are solving problems in a scenario, and it's kind of gamified, so they earn tokens and awards and things like that. And so I'm going to have Mr. Harder step up here, I think. I'm going to let you do it, Mr. Harder.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. Through the process, we had a few community members reach out and board members ask about privacy of student data. And so it's something that I often don't get to stand at this podium and talk about. So Jill said I could have 25 minutes and I could speak all night long about my favorite topic. And so I want to take an opportunity to explain what happens when we bring on any new digital tool here in the district. It's not just these 4 digital tools or Amira or Lexia. It's anytime we're looking at something new. So we brought on, for example, EduClimber a few years back as a data visualization tool. We went through the same process with them. And so all of our new digital tools that we bring on, we ask our vendors to sign a digital privacy agreement. I have a copy of it right here. It's a multi-page document that we utilize above and beyond the contract that a company sends to you. So we will eat, and poke holes through the contract itself, and we'll work with Mr. Sarnall and the team and Ms. Wimmer, and sometimes even working with our lawyers to poke holes through that contract. But we believe in going one step further to keep our kids' data safe. We are in a unique environment in education compared to when you sign up for something at home, and what rules we have to play by in the education realm versus you may have to if you just got a cell phone and you downloaded an app on your cell phone at that point in time. So everybody goes through a contract like this. We are actually part of a statewide consortium. We are part of the founding members of that in the state of Wisconsin. This is a national initiative where everybody utilizes a similar contract. And so what this allows me to do is that if Mr. Rebholz's district had already signed a data privacy agreement, I don't need to go through the whole process again of negotiation. I can actually sign on to Mr. Rebholz's district's agreement. And so we will look for those first in this case. If not, we will work with each vendor to make sure that we sign this. And this contract outlines specifically a variety of different things, but the bullet points up there, number one, who owns the data? It's our kids' data, it's our data, it's not the companies to sell and do what they want with. They're prohibited from advertising to our students as they work through that. It outlines both the duties of the district and the vendor as we go back and forth, as we provide them with certain data points, as we work with them over the term of the contract. It describes security protocols and training pieces, so it does required of, it talks about security training for their staff, talks about also working with third-party vendors, so not, as we know in the world of technology and other areas, that you may have a third party who comes in and works on an aspect of a project, so it talks about those different things. It outlines, and most importantly, it outlines what happens if there is a data breach. Unfortunately, those things happen in today's society, in today's world. It outlines what happens, and it talks about who has to do the notification, who's on the hook for the payment if I got to send a letter to 1,000 students' families that says, that data's out there. And you can find and Google that, and that's happened in numerous districts across, the state of Wisconsin or, the United States. But it outlines all of that up front, and we're not having that argument after the fact. And then it talks about the destruction of our data at the termination of a contract when we're done. What happens with that? Not that our data's hanging out there. If we want to get a copy of that data and so forth, that gets all outlined in this. And then we run that through our consortium, and then other districts can sign on. So if we are the first for some of these, it opens up that door for other districts. But this is a process that we utilize for any new tool that's been coming on board for the last couple of years in the West Bend School District. All right. Ms. Justman.
So I'm Johnny in second grade, and I'm signing up for one of these programs. I'm assuming that I have a school email that it's associated with, and all of that data then is held by the district in that email. So Johnny's never signing up with his home email, nor is he giving out a phone number or any of those things. And I'm trying to remember from my own children's school email, it's not even their full name. It's a combination of...
And last, first, and some numbers. You're
Correct. So it's kind of ambiguous, quite honestly. You wouldn't necessarily be able to tell it was Johnny Smith out of those numbers.
I mean, you can start to look at the data patterns and things like that, but when we provide a new system that comes online with data, we take the minimal amount of data that we need to provide them. So oftentimes they will say, I need these 8 things to be able to run this system, but we'd love you to give these 12 things.
Sure.
We're not sending those 12 things unless they're pertinent to something. Let it be some way for a parent to have a parent login into the system, something like that. But we're going to keep the minimal amount down to it. And it's always tied back to the usernames and passwords that we utilize here. Being a Google school district, we often use sign in with Google. Makes it easier for our students, especially at the younger ages, to continue that process on instead of having to retype that password in, especially if you've ever watched a kindergartner try to type an 11-character password. It is brutally hard. And so we will utilize those tools that we have in-house, but it's all tied back to their student IDs that we run here.
And then perhaps this is a Dr. Reese question. So again, let's use my example of Johnny. So I'm assuming that the teacher is helping each student, because how would the program necessarily know what level Johnny was at, correct? Or are we downloading student to say these are all of our second graders, these are our third graders, or explain to me how that would work?
So for a classroom, you would put a classroom list in.
Okay.
And then the student might do like a pre-assessment for the program to get kind of a level, and then help them that way. One of the important things I think to remember, and I know we talked about this last time, is these are used like in a workshop format. So if, let's say a literacy tool, there's some time where students are doing independent practice because the classroom teacher is running a small group, or sitting down next to a student and doing some conferring, and then students might be on this digital tool. Afterwards, the teacher can collect that data and see how the kids did, and then form a different small group for the next day and do some instruction with that. So it's really kind of interactive with the whole class. And I always say the beauty of these tools, the first thing is to get the kids on and using it. The second thing is what happens with the data in the classroom and how teachers use it.
So going back to 100 years ago when my students were young, and we would volunteer in the classroom. So, I assume there's obviously been less of the parents volunteering due to COVID, et cetera, et cetera. But I remember the independent reading time so that students were working either independently, completely by themselves, and depending upon their grade level, they're either reading, a book from the room or a book from the school library. I'm assuming that's what you're referencing. So this is obviously not going to take the place of a classroom teacher, teaching all 24 students, but especially with reading, and I would assume also with math, people are always at different levels. You have your high learners, and then you have learners who need more help, and then you have, that little clump in the middle. So, just as we had reading groups 100 years ago, I'm assuming that's the same thing. So we're looking at teacher A is working with this group, and then, a paraprofessional maybe is working with the middle group, but we still have another group that needs help. And so this is designed to help these students obviously become more proficient at whatever level they're at and to grow.
Correct.
Are students able to use these tools at home on their Chromebooks?
Yes, so they will be set up so that they can utilize them at home or at school if they so choose. Some of that will be dependent, Joel, on the teacher and where they're at and how independent the students actually are and where they're at within that tool. But for example, I'm familiar with the user side of the Student of Dreambox because we've had that for a few years, a little bit more than the other tools. Those students could be home practicing at night. And they could be doing this in the summer if we so wanted to. So we let our kids keep our Chromebooks over the summer so they could be utilizing these during summer school or summer times also.
Do any of these tools ask a child or suggest a child turn on a camera while they're using the tools?
So they will for a Mira because it has to read, it'll use that camera microphone and more the microphone to listen to that voice aspect of that and read during the time they're utilizing that website on their Chromebook. No different than if a child was joining a Google Meet, the camera and the microphone would be on for the portion of the Google Meet.
So I guess the first question is for Dr. Reese, or the first comment. With COVID and with the virtual learning and everything, I mean, obviously we've seen an accelerated rate of students kind of, not progressing at the rate that you would want them to. So, you can almost directly attribute that to not in-person, not face-to-face learning. My concern is that now we're going to be, we might be in this problem due to that, or have an accelerated issue due to that, and now we're going to put the students in a position to just have more of it. Are you concerned that these are going to be, we're going to just get further and further behind because of the lack of in-person or face-to-face communication with the teacher?
I guess I don't exactly share those same concerns because I know the way it would be used, and I don't believe it's not going to take the place of face-to-face. It complements the face-to-face. And so I see it as a complement where the teacher can get some real in-depth data to help that student even further the next day or in a small group or down the road. So I look at it a little bit different. I understand what you're saying with COVID, but I do see an opportunity.
So what's the day-to-day a student would use it, like, a rough estimate of how much time they would be using it? Rough.
So let's say independent practice time is 30 minutes. And during that time, the student might be part of that time in a small group and part of that time being independent practice. So let's say 15 and 15. So they might use it for 15 minutes. It probably, though, is not every day. And I'll give you the example. Lexia, in particular, assigns each individual student how much time they need to use it to reach proficiency. So where you might need to use it for 20 minutes, I might need to use it for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And that's over the course of a week. So it's very prescriptive in what I need versus what you need, and we'll give you those times. So teachers can then set that up too and set up their small groups and their independent practice based on some of those tools that are in the system.
Okay, and now on to Tim. We discussed some security stuff that I had questions over, I was still waiting on an answer from.
Yep, so we do not have an answer on the masking piece and the
Okay.
tokenization. Oh, did you get, we did reach out, but
I
we,
don't have anything.
we don't have an answer yet on that. I can tell you it's not something that we commonplace run across, as we talked about in education at this point in time.
What was the question?
So-
Go ahead.
So, as a IT person, one of my top priorities or thoughts was security for data. So I'd asked Mr. Harder and Jill what security the vendors actually put in place for security data or data security. And one of those things that I was mainly looking for is tokenization of the data. So data would not be visible to any of their users, any of their employees, where we're sending over minors or child data, like PII, personal identifiable information such as email addresses, where you can get a last name very easily, and a first initial. Possibly IP addresses, I'm not sure if we're sending that. Probably years or birth years, or at least a age, and whatever other information that we're sending over there. I mean, that's just a couple pieces that we have no idea what they're doing. So a tokenization tool, if our vendors were using it, if these vendors are using it, it would basically take that data and put it through a process where it actually will tokenize it, and you actually need a key to actually get it. Now that then will mask any data that we send for our students or any of our minor students to those companies, and none of their employees will be able to actually see that data. They'll still be able to access what they need to through the tokenization tool or through the masking tool that they use, but we won't actually be giving them or their employees, because we have no idea who their employees are. Are we vetting every single employee to make sure that they can even talk to our students or look at the students or have communication with students? That's my biggest concern right now, is that we're sending over still too much data, even though we have security measures in place and security protocols in place, but we're still not sure if they're tokenizing it, and that would be a no for me. Just because I think it's too risky for our students. I know we have stuff in place now, but just moving forward, I think, I think it's going to be better practice just to make sure our vendors are actually tokenizing our students' data, not actually giving access to their employees of our students, because they are minors. I mean, you got kids down to 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years. I mean, these are young kids, and who knows, what they're all collecting for data for an AI.
We can certainly ask those questions in the future. Yeah, we have not heard back as of yet today.
Go ahead, Melanie. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, I just personally have concerns about the artificial intelligence. I know everybody says, oh, all kids have phones, but not all kids do have phones. My kids don't have phones. And I would imagine a lot of the little ones don't. But I know even in our house, we don't use Alexa. We don't have Siri on. For me, I don't want that robotic. I don't want my kids being taught by a robot, talking to the robot, especially if they got to turn on the camera and that robot is seeing that, who's on the other side of that, we don't know. And the whole AI thing creeps me out. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that in my home, or if my kids were working with AI. And I know I'm probably not the only person that feels that way. So I mean, if we were voting on all of these separately, I would probably, some of them I probably would be okay with, but the AI, I am not okay with the AI.
Is there an opportunity for a student to opt out or for parents to opt their student out?
Yes.
With data privacy and who owns the data, I think of programs that we use like Skyward and Canvas. Are they tokenizing that type of data, do you know?
Skyward for us is housed here, so we own that. It stays on our server farm here. Canvas does not tokenize that, I believe, at this point in time. I don't believe it's something that's hit the education realm like it has some of the other financial institutions and other larger companies at this point. I do believe it's something that will show up in the future and become more commonplace as it goes out there over time.
As it relates to the data that we believe we're sharing, it sounds like home address, not.
All depends. So every company's out there. Typically, the bare minimum we need to work with is first name, last name, and in some cases, not even that, just a username and a password. And usually, we're not even sharing the password because of the fact that It's a sign-in with Google feature. They don't need to see it in any way, shape, or form. So each vendor will require that, and that actually is outlined, Chris, in this agreement. We actually ask them to put down each piece of data that they will house on our student.
Yeah.
So that if there is a data breach, we have the ability to go back and say, okay, you have X, Y, and Z, and we need to address that, because the unique thing about data privacy laws, and things that I've learned over my time, is that depending upon where the child is at the time of the breach when we have to notify and what state they live in is actually what law we have to play by. And so I may have to send a different letter if a child has moved to the state of Colorado than the children that lived here in the state of Wisconsin. And so unfortunately, we've had a vendor who's had a data breach and we've had to send a letter before. And it does happen. So we want to make sure we know what data points that each vendor is, so they are required to fill that out as part of our agreement.
And Dr. Reese, just a general question. I'll piggyback on some of the other questions that were asked. So just so I understand, when we're talking about these tools, and particularly the AI tools, are these tools, when we talk about, is the tool going to be used to teach, or is the tool used to reinforce? So I think of, in the dark ages when I went to school, the teacher would teach math, multiplication, but then I on my own would be given flashcards to reinforce it. Is that generally what we're talking about here, or am I seeing that incorrectly? Can you tell me, am I generally right, or where would I be wrong?
You are correct. So Amir in particular came up about tutoring, and it really is assessing kids, but also is giving kids feedback as it's assessing them. So it's also listed then as tutoring kids, but it's really reinforcing good reading and reinforcing like how you hold your mouth and form your letters and say your vowels and things like that as kids go through it and they read these phrases. So it's really about reinforcement and encouragement more than new teaching. It might be reteaching some things that they know, but not necessarily new teaching.
Thank you.
How often would a student be assessed in say, literacy? Teacher's got 28 children in his or her classroom. Maybe there's an aide helping that teacher, and I assume there needs to be assessments done on where kids are at. So how often would that happen without these types of tools?
So we have a pretty rigorous assessment calendar currently in place. The beauty of something like this is kids are getting assessed without knowing they're getting assessed. It's kind of just a thing that happens because it's part of the process, right? So currently, I'll use running records as an example. We ask teachers to do a one-to-one running record on a student quarterly, and then they put that data into our data system. That running record takes 10 to 30 minutes each kid, depending on their reading level and individual face-to-face. So that's a pretty hefty lift when you have 28 kids at different reading levels, and we ask them to do that on a regular basis. The beauty of something like a running records tool is I can do an individual running record with you one-on-one. I can get additional data from the tool, and I can do it more regular to form small groups and to do individual reading with you where you need it. On a more regular, even weekly basis or things like that. So it provides a level of really deep understanding that teachers can get. The other piece about this running record versus a human running record, there is some subjectivity in that. That's just the way it is because we're humans, right? No shade on that. It just is the way it is. You don't get that same subjectivity in this tool because it's standardized. So there's some benefits in that realm too.
I would imagine there's a lot of benefits in that the more a child reads, the more a child gets into this, even reading on Saturdays and Sundays is creating that running record. And come Monday morning, the teacher can see that Johnny spent 8 hours practicing and showing hopefully improvement, and then maybe placing him or her into a different small group or whatever. And so I understand, and I have the same concerns as far as privacies go, but I also don't see that these systems are much different from Skyward. I mean, Skyward knows everything about me and my wife and my emergency contact and my lunch balance and my everything. And I trust that we have good policies and contracts put in place with these types of vendors. I know Skyward is, like you said, housed a little differently, but Canvas is not, and they know a lot about my kid. So I love the fact that this gives children an opportunity to grow in literacy and math outside of the classroom even. And I don't know if you've seen our literacy and math scores lately, but we've got some work to do. And if this is a tool that can be helpful, I've talked with you privately about this. You've used it in another district and saw not only growth in literacy and math numbers, but it was extremely helpful for the teacher to know where their students are every day, every week, versus once a quarter, and trying to do assessments one-on-one. So, you know, I like the fact that you can opt out of these if there are parents that have concerns over how it's administered or what the program is, but I really don't see a downside to it. Trusting that the data is going to be kept private, and these are two look like very unique, cool tools that could drastically help us here in the district.
Thank you. Yeah, just to get back to some of that data. So Lexia in particular, I have quite a bit of experience with, and the district that I brought it into and we used pretty prolifically for 6 years, we used the MAP assessment in that district. We didn't use STAR, but we ran a corollary study with students that were using the tool, the recommended amount of minutes, and how they did on the MAP assessment, and they averaged 10 points higher on a MAP assessment per student that used it on their recommended amount of minutes. You don't get those kind of numbers unless something is really happening. The other thing is, I had teachers literally like in tears at different points saying, thank you for this resource, thank you for these tools, because as a teacher, they come in with the best intentions, and they come in and they want their students to do well. And this gives them the data and then the tools that go along with it to help the students do better. So it was very positive.
Other questions, discussion?
I just have a comment. I mean, I appreciate all the dialogue. I agree with Joel that our scores are scores. And I'm in the camp of doing something. And I appreciate your last comments that is good tangible evidence that if you have shown it in other districts and it has helped, and the teachers like it, and the teachers will help the students use it. And I agree too, not get away from face-to-face, but if it's a supplement, I loved your idea on flashcards, Chris. I mean, brings back memories. And I'll just say finally, Tim, you've implemented wonderful technology tools for our district that have been safely, so I'm leaning towards appreciating bringing those tools to our assessments and in favor of them. And we can certainly take these motions separately. There's no reason why we can't do that if that's...
That's what I was going to suggest.
Which one would you like to take separately?
Oh, well, I'll move to approve Lexia, Happy Numbers, and Dreambox.
Very good.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the adoption of Lexia, Happy Numbers, and Dreambox, excuse me, as presented. Sorry about that. Motion and second to approve those three. Any final discussion?
I'll make a secondary motion. I'd like to move to approve Lexia, Amira, Happy Numbers, and Dreambox.
Secondary motion to approve Lexia, Amira, Happy Numbers, and Dreambox. So is that a motion to amend the first motion?
Oh, that's a secondary motion.
All right.
So we'll
We'll take the primary one first then, correct?
If there's a second on my motion, then we would take my motion first.
Understood.
If my motion fails, then we go back to the original motion.
Very good. All right, we have a secondary motion to approve Lexia, Amira, Happy Numbers, and Dreambox. Is there a second?
I'll second the secondary motion.
Motion and second to the secondary motion. All right, any final discussion? So this,
Have a discussion.
Sure.
Since Tany's our most senior curriculum committee member, I'd just like your thoughts on that motion on the table. Yeah, and the Mira.
We actually use a lot of AI at Delta Defense. Our customer experience, our customer experience department, those include the people on the phones. And of course, face-to-face or voice-to-voice live conversation is preferred, and that's what we do. But we have artificial intelligence listening to those conversations, not because that we're trying to find out when they're saying the wrong thing. We're not trying. It's not a getcha kind of thing. It's a tool that helps them be more successful. It keeps track of certain words that the customer is saying that get the best response from what our customer experience person is trying to convey. So I have seen, as much as I was skeptical and about AI and how it, just like anything, it can be used for good or it can be used for bad. You could say that about any technology. And we have found a way to make it, I finally see how it can be positive. And so that's why I can understand people's skepticism who don't have experience with AI, but I've seen the benefits of it, and it doesn't take away from, doesn't have to take away from in-person, and it can really provide a lot of data that both the students and the teachers and the parents can get excited about.
Mr. President, I have let 3 hours get the best of me, and I apologize to Ms. Aragot. I told you we should take these separately, and I rudely made a secondary motion. So I will rescind my motion, we'll vote on the first three, and then we'll go back to Amira with my apologies.
Sounds good. All right. Unless there's objection, we'll go to the primary motion. And the primary motion, original motion, was to approve Lexia, Happy Numbers, and Dreambox. Any final discussion on that? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, 1 no. That vote is 6-1, and that carries. Mr. Donaldson will register you as a no vote for the minutes. All
I'll
right.
move to approve Amira as a digital resource for K through 4 for literacy.
Second. Motion and second to approve Amira for K through 4 literacy. Any final discussion? Hearing none, I will call the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No.
2 noes. Mr. Donaldson and Ms. Aragot, thank you.
Again, my apologies, that was rude of me.
Motion carries. All right. We move on then to, thank you. We move on to our discussion item regarding the second reading of policies in the 500 series for personnel.
This is the second reading. We had a first reading before. Again, we noticed that it's generally 3 readings and action. Lonnie's here. He presented in my physical absence last time. We didn't have a lot of follow-up and discussion. Again, if just taking questions, feedback, then we'd like to bring this forward for a third reading and action on all of them. There's certainly nuances of kind of updating language. We've put those in buckets for you for ease. No change, revision, noted what that revision is. New language we're really substantially replacing. And then you can see the removals mapped to what it got replaced with. So again, just a second formal reading for the board prior to bringing it forward as a third reading and a call for action on the different policies.
I think as you had mentioned, even though this is a second reading and with unanimous consent, we could move it forward, but because some of these depend on other ones, we wouldn't want to approve half of them and not others, and so thought, you know what, let this go to a third reading.
Right, we thought it might overly complicate the process of having to kind of batch them out and map those contingencies. So again, there's no rush in the work so that we can formally do the second reading and then third reading and a call for action at that time.
Okay, so unless there's a call for action, we will leave this for a third reading. All right.
Is there any feedback for Lenny, myself, or members of the policy committee regarding anything that you've read? I know you had some time to digest as well, so let us know.
Okay, very good. Next is a Head Start Quality Improvement Grant is a discussion item, and Lenny Hansen. Oh, no.
Stuck with
Mr.
me
Durant.
again, yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you. All right, so I'm here to talk again for Jamie Malsom. So this is a Head Start Quality Improvement Grant. Approximately every 3 years, the Office of Head Start releases some additional funds that can be used, in this case, only for staffing and wages. So if you remember many, many months back, we brought to you the community and self-assessment. And in the community and self-assessment, both teaching staff and parents in the program identified a greater need for English language, people that it could interpret in our buildings. So what we are proposing to use this quality improvement fund for is a 50% English as a second language aid. So this paraprofessional would be speaking Spanish as their primary language. We know that we can sustain this long-term because that quality improvement fund then becomes part of our basic grant long-term. So this is pretty routine for the Office of Head Start, that they'll release additional funds and then they kind of base build our grant for us from time to time. So this is up for discussion. Any questions on that?
Questions?
Is this like a teacher?
So it would be a paraprofessional, so an aid staff member, and it's a 50% position.
Other questions? All right, so we'll have time to digest this, as this is a discussion item, so we'll see this on the next agenda as an action item.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we're on to future agenda items, board meeting calendar. So we have a number of meetings coming up. May 24th, which is tomorrow, if memory serves, we have Policy Committee at 4 p.m. here in the Education Service Center, and then Curriculum Committee also in the Education Service Center starting at 6 o'clock. So Policy Committee, we're on notice that our meeting will end by 6
Yeah,
o'clock.
I see that.
Or a double header. On June 6th, then, we have our regular board meeting at 5:30 here in the Education Service Center. Any questions on the board calendar?
Just one point, we've talked about a lot of events. We've tried to call out those end-of-the-year events, and we schedule our attendance. There's a couple, please just let me know if you're attending. Anytime there's a quorum of board members present, meaning 4 or more of you present at an event, we post that publicly, just as an assurance that there's no board business occurring at that time. But I know whether it's the military signing or it's the baseball game, things of that nature, just let me know. I may just post that it's potential for board members to be present at those events in the community, just to cover your attendance. But just, again, that assurance that no board business occurs at that time.
I would ask you to probably post the baseball game. I would think most of us will try and be there if we can, or at least for a portion of it.
Good call.
I'll post those high-level events just to make sure we're covered.
Great. Thank you.
Baseball game, for those of you who don't know, is East-West on Thursday night. There's a presentation of colors and some ribbon cuttings, and the game, that starts at 5, and the game's at 5:30, so it should be a pretty neat deal down at the new Carl Cuss Field.
All right, thank you. Any items for follow-up and communication?
Just a big thank you, Superintendent, for the, I thought, pretty incredible recognitions that were put together tonight. That was a pretty exciting group. We see a lot of athletes. We saw some athletes tonight, but just a lot of other areas that our kids are doing really cool things. So that was a highlight for me of our meeting tonight. Thanks for putting that together.
Thanks for that recognition. I know that I put out something in our staff newsletter, but just a welcome from our community or our board members when there's amazing things going on in the district, whether it's district-sponsored or it's just to highlight our students and what they're accomplishing. Feel free to reach out to me or Director of Communications, Nancy Kunkler, so that we can help highlight whether it's in our news, on social media, or again, through formal recognition of the board. So I'd urge everyone to kind of just reach out and share those because they are exciting opportunities. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have reached the end of our planned agenda, and so I would move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kurt. Motion and second to adjourn. Any final discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion to adjourn carries. Thank you to everyone who attended here in person and on video. Have a good night.